The apocalypse has arrived. On the very first day humans could awaken superpowers, the female-led Xiao Yu publicly announced that she had awakened the never ability. The male lead simp, He Sheng, also claimed that he had awakened the mental type ability, and I, despised by these two women, sat in the corner, not daring to speak, because I actually have both of their abilities. Just when I thought I only had dual element abilities, the secretary, Jiang Qi, stepped forward and said he had awakened the worst type ability. The next second I was stunned, because I realized I could suddenly control the potted plant on the table. At this point, I had a bold theory about the ability I had awakened. So, I looked at the male lead, who hadn't revealed his ability yet. By Haren, they've all awakened their abilities. You must have awakened one too, right? What kind of ability did you get? Can you show me? Bai Haoren smiled confidently. He just raised his hand, and the single sofa instantly vanished. I feigned surprise. Haoren, I can't believe you awakened a spatial ability. How big is the space? I'm so jealous. Bai Haoren answered proudly. 250 cubic meters. Hearing this, I thought to myself, when I first transmigrated here yesterday, I took the spatial ring that originally belonged to the male lead and claimed it with a drop of my blood. And yet, today he still awakened a spatial ability. It's obvious the author just couldn't stand seeing the male lead suffer even the slightest grievance. As I was thinking this, the water cup in my hand suddenly disappeared. Damn it. I accidentally exposed my spatial ability. I was planning to secretly hoard supplies. Now I have no choice but to pretend to be a spatial user. Everyone noticed my strange reaction. Xie Jilin, the female lead's mother who adores me, was absolutely thrilled. Our Xiaobei is amazing. You actually awakened a spatial ability too. Auntie is so proud of you. Everyone gave Madame Xiao face and offered their congratulations. No one noticed the flash of disappointment in Bai Haoren's eyes. He thought he was special. Right after that, the bodyguard, Zhou Qi, stepped forward. With a wave of his large hand, the fruit knife and car keys on the coffee table floated into midair. He coldly dropped a single sentence. I had a fever last night. Mental type ability. The crowd erupted in another round of envy and congratulations. I was completely numb, because I realized I also had the mental type ability. I lowered my head, secretly rejoicing, when I heard the female lead, Xiao Yu, ask, Lin Bei, how big is your space? I was about to answer truthfully, but I noticed Xiao Yu glaring at me like a knife, so I replied, just 10 cubic meters. Xie Jilan quickly stood up to comfort me. 10 cubic meters is already very big. My Xiaobei is the best. Once we gather supplies, you can pick your favorites to keep in your space. That way, no one can touch them. I'll also have your grandpa get you some firearms. No one will be able to bully you. As soon as she finished speaking, a clear, bright voice rang out from behind. Who dares to bully my Lin Bei? I turned around and saw a red-haired girl in a black hoodie, standing at the top of the second-floor stairs. Her hair was a bit messy, clearly having just woken up. This was the female lead's only younger sister, Xiao Jixia. She had always been very good to the original Lin Bei, especially after finding out that Lin Bei liked her sister. She even boldly declared, Lin Bei is my future brother-in-law. If anyone tries to steal him, I'll beat them to death. Xiao Jixia walked up to me, flames erupting from her hand. Don't worry, brother Xiaobei. I've awakened the fire-type ability, so I can protect you too. And just like that, I gained a fire-type ability as well. Xiao Jixia pulled me into the study. Right now, only Xiao Yu, Xiao Jixia, and I were in the room. I constantly kept the female lead's words in mind. Stay 2 meters away from her. Xiao Yu watched me obediently sit on the sofa furthest from her, looking very satisfied. Your performance in the living room was quite smart. Xiao Jixia, afraid I wouldn't understand, quickly explained. Everyone in the living room is Big Sister's subordinate, but not all of them are trusted confidants. We still need to be on guard. Big Sister treats you as one of our own, which is why she didn't let you reveal everything in the living room. Of course I understood. I just couldn't be bothered to argue. Anyway, in their eyes, I'm just a wimp. Brother Xiaobei, how big is your space really? Xiao Jixia asked. I told the truth. 200 cubic meters. Besides, I have the secret realm space, which is more than enough for me to hoard supplies. There's no need to hide my ability space. Most importantly, in a month, the base's research institute will invent a spatial scanner. The machine can easily detect the size of an ability user's space and all the supplies stored inside. Rather than being exposed then, it's better to just tell the truth now. As soon as I finished speaking, Xiao Yu's eyes flickered. Other than the two of us, don't tell anyone else. I can understand not telling others, but why can't I tell Auntie Lan? Xiao Jixia knew her sister had zero patience when talking to me, so she explained, my mom hates seeing people look down on you. Just to prove a point, she would definitely blurt out the actual size of your space. Xiao City doesn't have a large military garrison, so it's unlikely a major base will be established here. We'll eventually have to go to the capital to find Grandpa. Hoarding more supplies means having a better chance of survival. Xiao Yu interrupted her sister. In short, keep it a secret. Otherwise, I'll throw you into a horde of zombies. The female lead is absolutely psycho. She wants to use my space to store supplies, yet she still threatens me with zombies. But her read on me is spot on. I really am terrified of zombies. I got it. I angrily slammed the door shut and went back to my room. Watching my furious, retreating back, Xiao Jixia couldn't help but frown. Big sister, Mom already told me, no matter how much you want Xiaobei to grow up, you can't keep scaring him with zombies. Xiao Yu just replied indifferently. as long as it works. To be honest, even she was a bit surprised. He actually had something he was afraid of. Growing up, she had given him the cold shoulder, and she had lost her temper at him. But it always went in one ear and out the other for him. He would still shamelessly stick to her side. She never expected that mere zombies could actually keep him in line. For the entire day today, he hadn't acted like his usual self, recklessly clinging to her. This sudden peace and quiet was truly rare. She quietly rubbed her fingertips together. If he could stay this obedient and keep his distance, she wouldn't mind following her mother's wishes and keeping him safe for the rest of his life. After all, his mother had saved her mother and her sister back then. The Xiao family owed them a debt of rebirth. The Xiao family could never forget this favor. Naturally, she had to protect his mother's only son. However, a trace of doubt still lingered in her heart. He simply had too much of a track record. He had spiked her drinks no less than 10 times. Sneaking into her room in the middle of the night and crawling into her bed had happened over 20 times. Even her male secretaries had been bullied by him in every way imaginable. If she hadn't valued Secretary Jiang Qi's competence and immense stress tolerance, she probably wouldn't have hired another male secretary at all. Thinking of this, Xiao Yu's gaze darkened. Let's hope he actually keeps his word this time. Back in my room, I tried to sense my mental energy. Mental-type users would form a golden core in their minds, while water-type users would have a deep, ocean blue core. Yet, despite possessing 5 types of abilities, the depths of my consciousness were completely empty. There was absolutely nothing. No crystal core meant my abilities could never be upgraded. My theory was confirmed, but I wasn't happy about it. Level 1 abilities have extremely limited destructive power. They're barely enough to deal with ordinary zombies, but once the zombies evolve and upgrade, I'd be completely defenseless. The novel never mentioned a situation like this. I didn't have a single clue. Just as I was about to give up, a tiny spot deep within my mind twitched. A strange sensation surfaced without warning. I instinctively looked out the window. Xiao Yu was standing outside the villa, lightning flashing in her hands as she accurately struck the wandering zombies. Standing behind her was He Sheng. He was intensely focused on controlling a fire axe. Under the operation of his mental-type ability, the axe blade gleamed coldly, flying around and reaping heads. With every strike He Sheng made, I could see a surge of mental-type energy in my own mind, faintly flowing. I focused my mind, using all my consciousness to probe inward. Finally, at the core of my mental world, I found a crystal core. It was completely transparent, as tiny as a green bean. As the people downstairs continued their ability training, that transparent crystal core was constantly resonating slightly. With the activation of their various abilities, they trained incredibly hard. Later, they started digging out zombie crystal cores to absorb. Xiao Yu was the first to break through with her lightning ability. The moment she upgraded to level 2, I clearly felt that within my transparent crystal core, the lightning-type energy also surged upward. Suppressing my excitement, I flashed into my ring space. Aiming at an ancient tree in the distance, I tried to channel the lightning energy. What I released was no longer a basic lightning bolt, but a leaping, crackling chain of lightning. It was indeed the hallmark of a level 2 lightning ability. A bold thought suddenly flashed through my mind. What I awakened wasn't a 5-element ability at all, but a copying ability. But the original novel never mentioned this kind of ability. Thinking about it carefully, the male lead's space in the book didn't have a spirit spring, and the original owner never awakened an ability until the day he died. All the clues pointed to the spirit spring water I drank last night. It was precisely because I drank the spirit spring water that didn't exist in the original novel that I awakened the copying ability, which also didn't exist in the original story. Not only that, the abilities I copied would actually level up synchronously. As the original users improved their powers, it was a synchronized advancement. The next moment, I clearly felt my mental-type ability closely follow suit and break through to level 2. An hour later, it was followed by the fire-type ability and the wood-type ability. Finally, at 12 noon, Jiang Qi also broke through to level 2. I checked my own space, and my spatial storage capacity had increased to 500 cubic meters, and with all 5 abilities reaching level 2, my copying ability also leveled up to level 2. I was literally winning by doing absolutely nothing. I rolled around on my bed in pure joy when I heard a knock on the door. Xiao Zixia was standing outside, holding a bag in her hand. Inside were zombie crystal cores. Afraid I would be disgusted, she quickly explained. I've already washed them clean. Absorbing the energy inside can help you level up. There are a full 18 cores in here. Even if you're dumb, this is enough to get you to level 2. My mouth twitched. To upgrade an ability, absorbing 10 zombie cores of the same level is more than enough. Xiao Zixia actually gave me a whopping 18 zombie cores. Whatever. I'm supposed to be a clueless, pretty boy, with a pampered persona anyway. Alright, I'll absorb the cores right now. Xiao Zixia was still worried. I'll stay here and watch over you. If anything goes wrong, I can catch it in time. I didn't need to absorb cores to upgrade at all, so I just wanted to kick her out. Do you think I'm stupid like everyone else does? Xiao Zixia quickly shook her head, rushing to defend herself. Absolutely not. Then get out. I can do it myself. I pointed haughtily toward the door. Xiao Zixia had no choice but to leave. I'll be right next door. If you need anything, make sure to call me. I pretended to be impatient and shooed her away. An hour later, I opened my door and found Xiao Zixia and Auntie Lan, both waiting outside. The concern in their eyes was genuine. Before they could ask, I took the initiative and said, I've successfully leveled up. The sound of my door opening also attracted the others. Bai Haoren spoke up and asked, "We're discussing going out this afternoon to search for supplies. I wonder how big Mr. Lin's space is now." I shot him a cold glare. "None of your damn business." I wasn't planning on walking on eggshells anymore. With such a massive cheat code, if I kept holding back, I'd be doing a disservice to the transmigration gods. Blessing. At this moment, Xiao Yu acted as if she didn't hear it, and instead looked at me. "Since you've successfully leveled up, you'll come with us out of the resort this afternoon to gather supplies." "I don't want to." I refused flat out. That familiar wave of annoyance rose in Xiao Yu's heart again. "You can't be so selfish. Everyone killed zombies together to dig out those cores, so you could level up. Yet you refused to contribute." Xiao Yu didn't want to beat around the bush and spoke bluntly. Xie Jilin quickly stepped in to smooth things over. "Xiao Bei isn't being selfish. He's just worried about my safety and wants to stay in the villa to protect me." Xiao Yu scoffed coldly. "He's a level 2 spatial user, who still needs protection himself. How is he supposed to protect anyone else? That excuse doesn't hold up." I raised my eyes and looked at Xiao Yu. My voice wasn't loud, but it was exceptionally clear. "I can go out and gather supplies, but I don't want to go with your group. I'm honestly terrified. What if halfway there, Xiao Yu gets upset and just throws me into a horde of zombies?" As soon as I said this, Xiao Yu felt a sudden, inexplicable tightness in her chest. Why did she feel like the current me was even more infuriating than before? "I was just scaring you." Xiao Yu rubbed her temples, her tone revealing a rare hint of helplessness. "I wouldn't actually feed you to the zombies." "I don't believe you." I was completely unmoved. As a CEO, Xiao Yu hadn't had anyone dare to be this unreasonable and pester her, or bargain with her in a long time. She took a deep breath. I knew she had already carefully calculated the locations of the supplies. "This trip absolutely required the use of my space. Then swear that you absolutely won't kill me, and that you won't turn a blind eye if your subordinates try anything." Auntie Lan also chimed in. "Xiao Yu, just swear on my name." Xiao Bei was truly terrified by you this time. Xiao Yu's dark gaze locked onto my face. She practically forced the words through her gritted teeth. "I swear I will protect Lin Bei. Otherwise, let me achieve absolutely nothing in this life and be a complete failure." Auntie Lan wasn't entirely satisfied with this oath, but I gently nodded. I knew when to quit while I was ahead. Getting the proud Xiao Yu to say this much was already enough. I finally softened my voice. "I believe you, big sister." At 2 p.m., after a quick meal, the group gathered in the living room. Xiao Yu, Bai Haoren, Secretary Zhang, He Sheng, Zhou Qi, and I, the 6 of us, headed out. Among us, Wake, the driver, Zhou Qi, didn't have an ability, but he was a military veteran, so his combat skills were very strong. Xiao Zixia wanted to come too, but Xiao Yu said guarding the home base was just as important. Besides, they had already sent the villa's coordinates to the capital. The helicopters would arrive in the next couple of days, and she needed to be in charge of receiving them. Xiao Zixia knew her sister wasn't just brushing her off, so she stayed behind with peace of mind. Auntie Lam pulled me aside and instructed, "Xiao Bei, make sure you stay right behind your big sister. Whatever you do, don't wander off." I agreed on the surface, but in my head I thought, if I don't wander off, how am I supposed to secretly hoard supplies? Before getting in the car, I secretly grabbed Xiao Zhixia's hand and told her, "If there's any danger, don't worry about anything else. Just make sure to protect Auntie Lan." Xiao Zixia rolled her eyes speechlessly. To think there would come a day when I was the one giving her instructions, as if I wasn't the more unreliable one. Wang An rolled down the window and urged, "Mr. Lin, everyone is already in the car. We're all just waiting for you." I sneered. What? Is CEO Xiao not a person? Xiao Yu had just opened the car door at that moment. She acted as if she hadn't heard me, but after getting in and buckling her seatbelt, she said, "I told you to protect yourself, not to constantly provoke young Master Ming." Although she didn't name names, Wang An knew she was talking to him. He silently gritted his teeth. After I got in, the black commercial van slowly drove out of the resort. Right in front of us was the coastline. A lot of tourists had gathered by the sea, which meant there were also a lot of zombies. Xiao Yu calmly gave the order. "Gathering supplies is our primary objective. Avoid unnecessary combat. But if we encounter level 2 zombies, try to secure their crystal cores. We need to upgrade our spatial abilities first to expand our storage capacity." After saying this, her gaze casually swept over me. Out of caution, she still instructed in a deep voice, "Lin Bei, when we're fighting zombies, you are not allowed to get out of the car." I replied indifferently, "Understood." Such a straightforward response actually made Xiao Yu breathe a small sigh of relief. Thank goodness I was still afraid of zombies. In the blink of an eye, the team had successfully collected 8 level 2 zombie cores. After leaving the coastline, the atmosphere inside the car was quiet. Xiao Yu pondered for a moment. She looked at me. "This batch of zombie cores, can we let Mr. Bai use them first?" As soon as the words left her mouth, she realized she had actually phrased it as a question. I remained calm. Sure, Xiao Yu had prepared a whole speech to persuade me, but suddenly, it was completely useless. In her expectations, these 8 cores were far from enough to support my slow upgrade. The most logical plan was to prioritize upgrading Bai Haoren's spatial ability to level 3 so we could hoard more supplies. But she never expected that I would agree without a moment's hesitation. Unconsciously, her tone softened. "The next batch of cores we collect will go to you first." I nodded nonchalantly. "Anyway, if Bai Haoren levels up, My spatial ability will level up synchronously too. Not just Xiao Yu, everyone else in the car was also surprised by my reaction. Bai Haoren took the crystal cores, his cheeks slightly flushed, and sneaked a glance at Xiao Yu. CEO Xiao was, after all, special in his heart. When the car stopped again, right in front of us was an RDC, the regional distribution center for the country's largest supermarket chain. Bai Haoren suddenly opened his eyes, his tone filled with irrepressible excitement. He turned to Xiao Yu. CEO Xiao, my spatial ability has reached level 3. I now have 1,000 cubic meters of space, and I've gained the spatial blade ability. As he spoke, he rolled down the window and waved his hand outside. An invisible blade tore through the air, instantly severing the head of a nearby zombie. A few low gasps of amazement echoed inside the car. No one expected that a spatial ability, always considered a support type, could possess such sharp lethality. What should I do? I'm getting a little jealous. Secretary Zhang pushed up his glasses and said half-jokingly. Xiao Yu just gave a faint nod. She turned her gaze to me. Stay close to me later, and store the commercial van into your space. A hint of disappointment flashed in Bai Haoren's eyes. He thought President Xiao would be happier. Let me store it instead, he chimed in softly. Doesn't young Master Lin's space only have 100 cubic meters? Under Xiao Yu's instruction, I publicly claimed to only have a 100 cubic meter space. Nobody knew that my space ability had already synced up with Bai Haoren's. Upgrading to level 3, I also had a capacity of 1,000 cubic meters. Even Xiao Yu thought I only had 500 cubic meters. Xiao Yue didn't even acknowledge Bai Haoren's words. She reached her hand straight toward the van. The next second, the entire commercial van vanished instantly. Xiao Yu couldn't be bothered to entertain Bai Haoren. She reached her hand straight toward the commercial van. The next second, the entire vehicle vanished into thin air. I let out a cold snort and walked forward without looking back. Who knew Bai Haoren would actually complain to Xiao Yu, looking all wronged? President Xiao, I was just trying to help. I didn't expect Mr. Lin to get angry, but Xiao Yu just shot him a cold glare. You should call him eldest young master, not Mr. Lin. At that, Bai Haoren's face instantly turned pale. He bit his lip and lowered his head, his eyes full of disbelief. You have to know, back then when he called me by my full name, Xiao Yu never cared. Now that I was just being a little obedient, Xiao Yu was actually starting to reprimand him. Seeing him in such a flustered state, I could only sneer inwardly. This was just the beginning. Right after, we started clearing out the zombies and moving forward. He Shang and Zhang Qi led the way. Suddenly, Xiao Yu grabbed my arm fiercely. I gasped. This woman is ridiculously strong. However, I knew she was protecting me, so I didn't struggle. After all, compared to the original novel, where the female lead couldn't wait for me to die, this was already a massive improvement. Soon, we finished clearing the zombies. We arrived at Grain and Oil Warehouse number 3. Warehouse. Xiao Yu directly shattered all the security cameras with a bolt of lightning. Then, she ordered Bai Haoren to store half of the warehouse's supplies into his space. Bai Haoren could only nod and started grunting as he used his energy to move things. But right at that moment, Xiao Yu suddenly leaned in close to my ear. Her warm breath brushed against my ear, and her magnetic voice sounded. The salt and sugar. Store all of it into your space. That voice. A normal guy's ears would probably get pregnant just hearing it. Too bad I felt absolutely nothing for her. I just wanted to stay alive. I immediately let out a cold snort, deliberately using the original owner's idiotic tone to speak. I want to store meat and fruit. I don't want to store this stuff. As expected, Xiao Yu's eyes instantly turned chilling. She hated idiots the most, but she actually patiently explained, salt and sugar are strategic resources. Before long, a single bag of salt will be worth 10 pounds of grain. Of course I knew that. But could I show that I knew? A useless young master who had been an idiot for 19 years, suddenly becoming smart, sensible, and looking at the big picture. It'd be a miracle if the female lead didn't get suspicious. If you're gonna act, you gotta go all the way. The little abacus in my head was clicking away. Right now, I still had value to her. Xiao Yu wouldn't just let Bai Haoren push me into a horde of zombies. As for offending her, by the time she wanted revenge, I'd be long gone, so I pretended to be reluctant. Fine, I'll go store it. I didn't expect Xiao Yu to actually stop me. I'll cover you. Store it secretly. Don't let anyone know. I rolled my eyes, complaining out loud. So annoying. But inside, I was thrilled. The female lead is personally keeping watch for me. Isn't this just giving me the perfect chance to smuggle supplies? There's no inventory list in the warehouse. Who knows how much stuff is actually here? She'd never guessed that besides my ability space, I also had a ring space. Absolutely perfect. Just as I was ecstatic, Bai Haoren over there saw Xiao Yu whispering in my ear. The jealousy in his eyes was practically overflowing. He was definitely thinking I was seducing Xiao Yu again. Meanwhile, under Xiao Yu as cover, I was like a mouse that fell into a rice bin. For every 3 portions of supplies I put into my ability space, I secretly stuffed 1 portion into my ring space. The thrill of a 5-finger discount was amazing. Right after, we entered cold storage number 5. It was full of frozen meat. Without waiting for Xiao Yu to speak, I charged straight into the seafood section. Salmon, king crabs, black tiger shrimp. I directly stored half the inventory. The stash in my ring space was enough to feed me for lifetimes. As for the rest, I only pretended to store 1/5 of it into my ability space. But right then, Xiao Yu's gloomy voice sounded behind me. Who told you to wander off alone? I immediately turned around, my eyes sparkling as I held up a box of salmon. Big sister, this is your favorite salmon. I stored several boxes. Xiao Yue narrowed her eyes. She clearly wanted to scold me, but swallowed the words right as they reached her lips. She cleared her throat. This place hasn't been cleared yet. What if there are zombies? It's too dangerous. Just as she said that, 2 zombies wearing winter coats stumbled out from ahead. I rolled my eyes internally. What a jinx. But on the surface, I immediately pretended to be terrified. I ran over to Xiao Yu, trembling. Big sister, I'm so scared. Woo. Xiao Yu took out the zombies with a few bolts of lightning. She seemed somewhat satisfied that I didn't scream my head off and even comforted me. Don't be scared. But the very next second, she pried my hands off her clothes. What a clean freak bitch. I let go briskly. Who cares anyway? Only then did Xiao Yu ask me, how much seafood did you store? About 20 cubic meters, I guess. I gave a lowball number. She actually accepted it. All right, just this once. I immediately nodded like a woodpecker. From now on, I'll definitely stick right behind you, big sister, and not run around. Even though I knew she wouldn't believe a single word. Me behaving? Yeah, right. Right at that moment, I saw Xiao Yu's hand move, and a stream of water actually appeared out of thin air. It lifted the zombie's crystal core, washed it squeaky clean, and brought it right in front of her. I instantly covered my mouth. Here it comes. The female lead has awakened her second ability, water, though I seriously suspect she only got it because she's a clean freak and didn't want to touch the crystal core with her bare hands. That's why she awakened the water ability. But this was a massive benefit for me. Not only did I also gain the water ability, but because of my copy ability, it directly leveled up to level 2, 1 level higher than hers. More importantly, the human body is mostly water. If I could extract a person's water and blood, that would be an absolute killing weapon. Xiao Yu, however, looked completely calm. Let's go. We're heading out. As expected of the female lead, awakening dual abilities without showing a hint of arrogance, the others offered another round of congratulations. The way Haren looked at her was so passionate it could practically melt steel. Next, with Xiao Yu's help, my ability space was stuffed full of supplies. Canned goods, snacks, daily necessities, you name it. Of course, I smuggled even more into my ring space. Enough for me to survive for several lifetimes. That's about enough. Let's head to the next location. Xiao Yu gave the order. Everyone in the car was beaming with joy, especially Haren. He stared affectionately at Xiao Yu's back, definitely feeling like he had gotten one step closer to her. Then, he turned his head to look at me. That look, it was like he was looking at an idiot clutching a bag of spicy strips. Humph. He must be thinking, what else could my useless 1.00 cubic meter space do? Besides storing snacks, I couldn't be bothered with him. I was too busy stuffing spicy strips into my mouth. So good. Before transmigrating into this book, I was hospitalized for half a year, let alone spicy strips. My food barely even had salt in it. I absolutely love this healthy body. This insane spice level is wild. I pulled out a strawberry ice cream from my space. So refreshing. Right at that moment, Zhang Qi beside me suddenly handed over a bottle of milk with a straw already poked in. Eldest young master, eating spicy and cold stuff together. Be careful not to upset your stomach. I thanked him sincerely. Thanks. Zhang Qi was instantly flattered. The way he looked at me completely changed. But just as the car approached the main gate, we suddenly brushed past 2 off-road vehicles coming head-on. Who knew that behind them, there was a massive, dense horde of zombies following? There had to be 200 or 300 of them. Those idiots actually lured the zombies over. Zhang Qi closed the gate. Everyone else cover him, Xiao Yu ordered calmly. Then, she took a split second to yell at me. Stay in the car. Don't move. So, I sat back down with total peace of mind. It wasn't that I didn't want to get out, the female lead wouldn't let me. The people in those off-road vehicles clearly wanted to use us as meat shields. Once the gate was closed, we quickly cleared out the zombies inside. But the zombies outside had us completely blocked in. Those bastards, Zhang Qi spat in anger. Even the quiet He Sheng looked at Xiao Yu. The meaning was obvious. Do we take them out? I looked back at the retreating off-road vehicles, thinking it'd be great if I could store them in my space. I was just lacking a car of my own. Right then, Haren stepped up to pacify everyone. Those people were out of line, but isn't our main priority right now gathering supplies? Our next stop is the port. He hadn't even finished speaking, but everyone understood what Haren meant. He leaned in closer to Xiao Yu. President Xiao, a little impatience ruins great plans. I hugged my potato chips, watching the drama unfold. Anyway, nobody was going to ask for a mere decorations opinion, so I sneakily continued munching in the backseat. Crunch, crunch. But I never expected these damn chips to be so loud. Everyone looked over, following the sound. They just saw me hiding in the backseat, eating chips, my eyes full of innocence. Right then, Xiao Yue actually spoke up. What do you think? The air instantly turned awkward. I swallowed the chips in my mouth, finally realizing something was off. Are you talking to me? I pointed a finger at myself. Xiao Yu instantly looked away. She must have lost her mind just now. Why would she ask this idiot? Zhang Qi quickly and thoughtfully smoothed things over. Yes, eldest young master, President Xiao is asking you. How rare. The female led actually asking for my opinion. I knew exactly what was going on. If we go after them, I can copy abilities. If we don't and go to the next spot, I can smuggle supplies. For me, either choice was a win, so I answered obediently. I'll listen to Big Sister. Xiao Yu looked at the off-road vehicles parked in the distance and let out a cold sneer. It'll take a while for the zombies outside the gate to gather. Waiting around is just a waste of time. Might as well find something to do. Sure enough, she was going to make a move. I knew the female lead's vengeful personality. There was no way she'd swallow this insult. But Haren wasn't having it. Seeing everyone eager to fight, he actually turned to me indignantly. Mr. Lin Bei, why aren't you advising President Xiao? At a time like this, we should focus on the big picture. He even deliberately avoided calling me eldest young master, as if that would put him on equal footing with me. We don't even know what the situation is out there. This is our prime opportunity to hoard supplies. I just rolled my eyes hard at him. What? You can't convince my sister, so you're pressuring me? My sister is a visionary. Whatever decision she makes is the best decision. They're already stepping all over us. And you want to act like a coward? It's the apocalypse. If we can't live freely and boldly, what's the point of awakening abilities? Might as well just hide in a villa and wait to die, right? My crazy rant wasn't just to kiss up to her. But since we were just sitting around anyway, I was also curious to see what those guys were capable of. Not to mention, Xiao Yu doing this was sending a message to everyone. Follow her, and you won't get bullied. Sure enough, as soon as I finished speaking, Jiang Qi and the other two all looked thrilled. Xiao Yu looked at my impassioned display, her eyes full of surprise, but the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Having someone blindly take her side actually felt pretty good. President Xiao, should we head out now? Jiang Qi rubbed his hands together eagerly, but Xiao Yu waved her hand. No rush. We'll make our move when they come back. Everyone instantly understood. She was planning to wipe them out and take all their supplies. Sure enough, half an hour later, those two off-road vehicles returned. Not only did they not slow down, they were actually speeding up. When they were 10 meters from the gate, an ice spike shot out fiercely from the car, trying to smash the gate open. So it's ice. An ice ability. This is great. I can eat shaved ice in the summer, build igloos in the winter, and even condense ice needles for stealth kills. I was ecstatic. I quickly activated my copy ability. Wait, something's wrong. Why can't I copy it? Does my copy ability have a limit on the number of abilities? I calculated carefully. The female leads lightning and water. The male leads space. He Sheng's metal, Jiang Qi's wood, and Xiao Zixia's fire. I already have 6 abilities. I muttered to myself. Fine. If I can't copy it, I can't copy it. A man shouldn't be too greedy. Right at that moment, the ice spike was about to crash into the gate. In the nick of time, He Sheng directly used his metal ability to control a small car, violently smashing the ice spike to pieces. The next second, raging flames actually spewed out from their other car, so they had 2 ability users. No wonder they were so arrogant. But Xiao Yu just raised her hand, and a pillar of water instantly extinguished the flames. The other side was completely dumbfounded. They didn't expect us to have even more ability users. They tried to turn around and run. Haren, however, released a massive boulder straight from his space, completely blocking their path. They tried to back up the cars, but Xiao Yu struck a bolt of lightning right behind them, completely cutting off their escape route. A minute later, several people stepped out of the cars, looking utterly defeated. The woman leading them was tall, and had a solid, muscular build. She first introduced herself. I'm Wang Meng, captain of the Ice and Fire Squad. Then, she completely changed her tune, and started apologizing and begging for mercy. Everyone, we were in the wrong just now. How about we compensate you with half the supplies in our cars? This wasn't a sincere apology at all. She was clearly just terrified of dying. She thought we only had wood and metal abilities. Who knew we also had lightning, water, and space? Now she was completely cowed. She even wanted to join us. Could you let us join your squad? We have 8 people, and one of us is a provincial fighting champion. She could tell that Xiao Yu was the boss, and a dual ability user she had never seen before. Xiao Yu didn't say a word, but I knew what she was thinking. Strangers with such despicable character, she would absolutely never take them in. But the other side had already admitted their mistake, and was willing to hand over half their supplies. If she made a move now, what would her subordinates think of her? Right at that moment, I was pleasantly surprised to find that I could copy Zhou Qi's ice ability again, but I held back, because I knew that with the female-led's personality, these people weren't going to live. I was afraid that the moment I copied it, Wang Meng would get off by the female lead right after. Then would my ability slot be wasted? Sure enough, while I was hesitating, Haren actually leaned in next to the female lead, and spoke up. President Xiao, we're exactly in need of people right now. Why not take them in? As expected of the male lead, always having to show off his profound righteousness. Did he really not see that those guys were using disgusting looks to check me out from head to toe? That's right, Haren was doing it on purpose. He saw that Wang Meng's subordinates had dirty thoughts about me, so he deliberately urged Xiao Yu to keep them. I panicked internally. We absolutely cannot team up with these people. So I immediately played up my brainless decoration persona, shouting at Xiao Yu, Big Sister. They dared to scheme against us just now. If we really team up, I'm afraid they'll push me into a zombie horde. You know, I'm terrified of zombies. Hearing this, Wang Meng hurriedly looked up to retort, we would never. But the moment she saw my face, she instantly froze, and even secretly gulped. Xiao Yu's gaze turned icy. She yanked me behind her fiercely. Stupid man. Those people didn't want to push me into a zombie horde. They clearly wanted to sleep with me. She took off her suit jacket and threw it right at my face, shouting sternly, put it on. Is this female-led sick in the head? Put it on my ass. It's summer. I don't want to get a heat rash. I absolutely refused to wear it. Xiao Yu couldn't do anything about me, so she could only darken her face and forcefully drape the suit jacket over my shoulders. But right at that moment, Wang Mang's disgusting gaze gave Xiao Yu an excuse. She directly blasted a bolt of lightning right at Wang Mang's eyes, roaring, "Who gave you permission to look at the eldest young master like that? You don't deserve to." The next second, He Sheng and Jiang Qi also attacked simultaneously, instantly one-shotting their fire ability user. Seeing this, Bai Haoren had no choice but to join in, using spatial blades to slash at the remaining people. But as he fought, he glared at me with pure hatred. That look seemed to say, that was a total troublemaker. Xiao Yu casting abilities with one hand, while guarding me with her body, stung his eyes even more. He felt that it was all because of me, that Xiao Yu changed her mind. This man can no longer be kept alive. Bai Haoren had already silently made his decision. Once Wang Mang and her crew were all wiped out, I quickly slipped over to Jiang Qi's side, watching them dig out the crystal cores. I remember the novel mentioning that ability users could also absorb crystal cores from users of the same element to level up. I didn't expect Xiao Yu to figure it out so quickly. I told myself that the closer I got to the male and female leads, the faster I'd die. I casually took that annoying suit jacket and tossed it back into her arms. Seeing my look of utter disgust, Xiao Yu felt this stifling tightness in her chest. The Lin Bei, who used to cling to her like glue, where did he go? But Xiao Yu quickly stopped dwelling on it, regaining her boss-like composure. Seeing that I wasn't missing any arms or legs, she had finally lived up to my mother's dying wish. Then, she suddenly spoke to me. "Go pick an off-road vehicle you like and store it in your space." "Really?" I asked, pleasantly surprised, my eyes lighting up. Xiao Yu actually looked away uncomfortably. "Really? Go on." So she had been paying attention to me the whole time she was killing zombies. Seeing me sitting obediently in the car, staring longingly at the off-road vehicles, I didn't expect to actually get a reward for behaving for a couple of days. I didn't care what she was thinking. I immediately ran over to those two brand new off-road vehicles. The black one was cool, and the army green one was badass. I loved them both. Bai Haoren curled his lips in disdain beside me. He was definitely cursing me in his head for being petty. But seeing me so torn, Xiao Yu just waved his hand. "Since you like them both, you can have both cars." I immediately sucked up to him. "Thanks, boss." Saying that, I tried to store the cars into my space, but Xiao Yu cleared his throat. "Your space is almost full. Let Secretary Jiang store them for you first." I instantly deflated. I almost forgot that publicly, my space is only 100 cubic meters. Let's head to the next spot. The moment the car started, Xiao Yu suddenly handed me a bag. "There are zombie crystal cores in here, as well as the cores from those two ability users. Absorb them as soon as possible to upgrade your space." I froze. What did he mean by this? Xiao Yu looked at me and slowly explained, "When I gave all the cores to Secretary Bai before, I told you, next time we get cores you'll have priority. You absorb them first. Once you successfully upgrade, the rest of us will use whatever cores are left." My opinion of Xiao Yu improved slightly, so he wasn't just brushing me off. I took the cores, calculating in my head that once I reached level 3, I could rightfully ask for my off-road vehicle back, even though my space had actually upgraded at the same time as Bai Haoren's long ago. Right at that moment, as the car slowly drove out of the gate, I noticed there wasn't a single zombie outside. "That's weird. Where did all the zombies go?" Jiang Qi asked while driving. Jiang Qi also felt something was wrong. Wang Mang and the others clearly lured hundreds of zombies here. How could they just vanish without a trace? Bai Haoren immediately turned to Xiao Yu, his face solemn. "Boss Xiao, I feel like something's wrong. I suggest everyone stay on high alert." I rolled my eyes so hard they almost got stuck. Anyone with half a brain could see that, okay? Did he really need to announce it so seriously? Acting like he was the only one who noticed. I can't help it. I just hate the guy. But I was busy focusing on absorbing the cores, so I didn't have time to tear him a new one. Making a prompt decision, Jiang Qi, speed up and get us out of here. But it was already too late. The moment the words left his mouth, hundreds of zombies suddenly swarmed out from all directions, instantly surrounding our car so tightly that not even a drop of water could leak through. The car couldn't move an inch. "Open the sunroof." At Xiao Yu's command, he and He Sheng immediately stood up through the roof, using their abilities to clear the zombies at the front of the car. Jiang Qi used his vines, and Bai Haoren used his spatial blades. Everyone was fighting desperately to clear a path, but seeing how rapidly their energy was draining, I stopped absorbing the cores, wanting to save them so the others could replenish their strength. To my surprise, Xiao Yu immediately noticed what I was doing. He roared at me, "Lin Bei, don't stop. Keep absorbing. You need to reach level 3 so you can use spatial blades to protect yourself." He never minced words with me. He just wanted me to be able to defend myself. But the zombies kept coming, wave after wave. There was no end to them. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Xiao Yu immediately ordered everyone to stop attacking and conserve their strength. A dead silence fell over the car. Everyone held their breath. Right then, wild joy surged in my heart. "It's here." It finally showed up. A female zombie wearing a black cape stood menacingly on the roof ahead. With a wave of her hand, the zombies blocking the front of the car actually parted in unison, clearing a path. "Boss Xiao, we can move. Should we go?" Jiang Qi asked. Xiao Yu shook his head. Wait. Aside from her pale, ashen face, that caped zombie looked almost exactly like a human. "She can control the zombies," Bai Haoren gasped. "What the hell is that thing?" Xiao Yu's eyes sharpened. "A psychic-type zombie. It's probably level 3. Jiang Qi's face was full of worry. Boss Xiao, what do we do now? Xiao Yu didn't answer. Instead, he gave me a deep, lingering look. After a moment, he finally spoke. In 1 minute, Secretary Bai, bring out the off-road vehicle. Secretary Bai, Jiang Qi, the 3 of you get in. Hearing this, Bai Haoren was thrilled that Boss Xiao chose him to fight side by side. Heh, Lin Bei, that idiot, is completely useless when it actually counts. But the next second, his smile froze on his face, because Xiao Yu continued, Jiang Qi and He Sheng. You two must protect the young master at all costs. We'll regroup at the next location. He had even prepared for the worst-case scenario. If we don't make it by dark, head back to the villa and meet up with the second miss. Bai Haoren stared at Xiao Yu in shock. Boss Xiao, are you saying you're going to personally act as bait to lure that zombie away? Just to protect Lin. He almost blurted out, just to protect Lin Bei, that idiot? That idiot? What about your ambitions? Didn't you want to build an indestructible base? In this apocalypse, Xiao Yu frowned and cut him off. Secretary Bai, I didn't say I was going to commit suicide. This Bai Haoren was pretty level-headed before the apocalypse. Why is he so impulsive now? Xiao Yu added, this is just a delaying tactic. I'm confident I can evade it. Taking me along would probably just drag him down. Not to mention, he had promised my mother that he would protect me no matter what. So he looked at Bai Haoren. If you're not willing, you can swap with Jiang Qi. He Sheng stays put. He has to stay by my side. He wouldn't feel at ease leaving a troublemaker like me in anyone else's hands. Bai Haoren immediately panicked. Boss Xiao, I'm willing to be with you. I wouldn't back down even if I had to cross mountains of blades or seas of fire. Xiao Yu looked at him, completely baffled. We're just luring away a zombie. Is all that really necessary? But on second thought, he was just a normal person after all. It was normal for him to be scared. You should just swap with Jiang Qi. Bai Haoren's face instantly turned miserable, but he forced himself to stay calm. Boss Xiao, as your secretary, it's my duty to stay by my boss's side. Xiao Yu nodded, and only then did he look at me. He was probably terrified I'd disagree and start throwing a tantrum again. After all, I had quite the track record. Now that he and Bai Haoren were leaving together, it would be a miracle if I didn't make a scene. But instead, he noticed my face was pale, my eyes were squeezed shut, and my forehead was covered in sweat. What was going on? Could absorbing cores actually cause a chi deviation? Lin Bei, wake up. If anything happened to him, his mother would skin him alive. Little did he know, I wasn't having a chi deviation at all. I was trying to copy the psychic ability of the zombie across from us. Unfortunately, I failed several times, but I figured it out. If the target is on guard against me, I can't copy their ability. That's why I couldn't copy Wang Meng's ability at first either. I couldn't copy it at the beginning, which means, back in the villa's living room, none of those people had their guard up around me at all. Even Bai Haoren, who has always hated me, was completely defenseless against me. Just how weak am I in their eyes? I guess the reason I couldn't copy this level 3 zombie was not only because it was on guard, but also because my copying ability was only level 2. A lower level can't copy a higher one. What a shame. According to the novel's plot, this caped zombie would eventually become the Zombie King. That black cape was its signature mark. Since I couldn't copy its power, I couldn't let it live. Once it became the Zombie King, it would be impossible to kill. Right then, Xiao Yu was still calling my name. I took the opportunity to open my eyes. Seeing me awake, he let out a massive sigh of relief. Bai Haoren immediately leaned in, faking concern. Young Master Lin Bei, how are you feeling? You really scared us just now. It's my first time seeing someone mess up absorbing a core. Thank goodness you're awake. I sneered. Here comes his old routine again. Hiding your sarcasm behind fake concern won't work on me. I wasn't going to indulge him. How else would I be? I successfully upgraded to level 3, of course. Bai Haoren, if you're itching for a scolding, you don't have to secretly fan the flames every time. I can just curse you out directly. I'll absolutely make you regret being born into this world. How about it? Bai Haoren habitually looked to Xiao Yu for help, only to find that Xiao Yu wasn't looking at him at all. He was staring dead at me. This male vixen. Bai Haoren cursed inwardly, but on the outside, he put on a look of immense grievance. Looking at his pitiful, green tea act, a wicked smirk crept onto my lips. I said bluntly, Bai Haoren, you like Boss Xiao, which is why you target me at every turn, right? Too bad that even without me, he still wouldn't be into you. The moment those words dropped, the eyes of everyone in the car instantly locked onto Bai Haoren. Even Xiao Yu whipped his head around to look at him. Bai Haoren's face instantly turned the color of pig liver. He immediately denied it. I do not. I pressed on relentlessly. Do not what? Do not target me, or do not like your precious Boss Xiao. Heh. In the novel, Bai Haoren always hid behind the guise of the CEO's secretary, pretending to be completely selfless. And the result? Xiao Yu was drugged by the original owner of my body, developing trauma toward anyone getting close to him, which allowed Bai Haoren to swoop in when he was vulnerable. Now that I've publicly torn down this facade, let's see how he keeps up the act. I remembered it crystal clear. In the original text, Xiao Yu even thought he was the one who fell in love first. The atmosphere in the car instantly became awkward to the extreme. Zhang Qi couldn't stand it anymore and quickly tried to smooth things over. Young master, now isn't the time for jokes. We should figure out how to deal with the zombies outside. I knew when to quit while I was ahead, so I stopped pressing the issue. This was just the first step. I needed to make Xiao Yu realize that his secretary Bai didn't just see him in a pure superior subordinate relationship as long as I stopped obsessing over Xiao Yu and stopped trying to force my love on him. Based on the fact that my mom saved the Xiao family, he would absolutely guarantee my safety for the rest of my life. This was obvious from the fact that he'd rather act as bait himself and leave his trusted aide He Sheng with me. Thinking of this, I pulled a few cores out of my pocket and handed them to Jiang Qi beside me, signaling him to pass them to Xiao Yu. Jiang Qi looked utterly confused. "Young master, you're closer to Boss Xiao. Why don't you give them to him yourself?" But he still obediently took them and handed them to Xiao Yu with both hands. I spoke up. "Boss, I saved 4 cores from my upgrade. I didn't use Wang Mang's 2 ability cores either. You guys hurry up and absorb them so we can deal with the zombies outside." Xiao Yu took the cores, looking at me with a complex expression. "So you almost killed yourself just now, just to save these cores?" "Yeah." I lied without batting an eye. I had reached level 3 a long time ago. Absorbing the cores was just for show. I feigned a pitiful look. Aren't we facing a strong enemy outside? I wanted to save as much as I could. I thought he'd be at least a little touched. Instead, his face darkened, and he looked utterly disgusted. "Don't try to be clever next time. Careful, you don't end up losing your life and making me waste effort saving you." I was instantly speechless. This guy's mouth is seriously toxic. What did the original owner even see in him? Bai Haoren's expression instantly cleared up. Boss Xiao was definitely still biased toward him. Seeing my expression sour, Jiang Qi quickly whispered to comfort me. "Young master, Boss Xiao is just worried about you. He was terrified just now." I sneered. "He's just worried that if I die, he won't be able to explain it to my mom." Jiang Qi shut his mouth. How did the young master's brain suddenly get so clear? Right then, Xiao Yu finished distributing the cores and issued an order. "Once you've absorbed the cores, we proceed with the original plan." But I spoke up directly. "I disagree." Xiao Yu took a deep breath. "Sure enough, here he goes again." He patiently explained, "I'm not going on a date with Secretary Bai. We're doing this too." I looked at him like he was a psychopath. "Boss, what are you thinking?" "I mean, I disagree with leaving. I want this. Level 3 Psychic Zombies core. So let's kill that caped zombie." As soon as I said that, everyone in the car looked at me like I was insane. A smug smile even curled on Bai Haoren's lips. "Keep acting up, Lin Bei. The more you act up, the more capable and sensible Boss Xiao will think I am." Xiao Yue also frowned, thinking I was just being unreasonable out of extreme jealousy. But for some inexplicable reason, he asked, "Why do you want that zombie core?" Maybe it was my pale face from earlier, or the way I carefully handed over the cores. He was actually willing to listen to my nonsense. Anyway, the commercial van was sturdy enough, and the zombies outside couldn't break in for the time being. I met his gaze and stated my goal directly. "I want to see if absorbing this psychic zombie's core will let me awaken a psychic ability." Who knew? Bai Haoren would jump out again to make his presence known. "Young Master Lin Bei, you're overthinking it. If absorbing a core was all it took to awaken an ability, would ability users still be so rare?" I shot him a death glare. "I wasn't talking to you, so shut up. Anyone who didn't know better would think you're the boss's spokesperson and that you can make decisions for him." Bai Haoren instantly panicked and looked to Xiao Yu for help. "Boss Xiao, I didn't mean it like that." Too bad, Xiao Yu completely ignored him. So I continued painting a grand picture for Xiao Yu. Think about it. How cool would a psychic ability be? If I could control zombies, I could just lie back and collect rent in the future. I'd make them work for me, gathering supplies and digging up cores. I hyped it up to the extreme, but I never expected Xiao Yu to actually take it seriously. He thought much further ahead than what I had said. If this level 3 zombie could control hundreds of zombies to besiege us, what would happen if it kept upgrading? Wouldn't it be able to lay siege to an entire city? The next second, his expression turned dead serious. Change of plans. "Kill it. We must kill this psychic zombie." Boss Xiao. Bai Haoren was completely frantic now. He looked at me like I was a femme fatale ruining an empire. "Have you forgotten your grand ambitions?" At that, the way Xiao Yu looked at him completely changed. I saw it clearly. It was a look of suspicion and scrutiny. It seemed he had actually taken my earlier words to heart. Bai Haoren also immediately realized something was wrong. He instantly dropped his pitiful act and regained the composure of a gold medal secretary. He spoke in a strictly business tone. "Our top priority is gathering supplies, not hunting down mutated zombies. If you get injured in the fight, our squad doesn't have a healer," to show that he wasn't letting personal feelings get in the way. He even added a hint of mockery. "Of course, as your secretary, I can only offer advice. The final decision is still yours to make." I had only said a few words, but as a result, the Iceberg CEO, Xiao Yu, was looking at his perfect male secretary in a completely different light. He was actually starting to suspect that Bai Haoren had a secret crush on him. But the next second, he thought he was going crazy, infected by my absurdity. He still thought I was just an unreliable guy. I watched the doubt fade from his eyes, but I wasn't in a rush at all. Once the seed of doubt is planted, it will sprout sooner or later. Right then, to reassure everyone, Xiao Yue finally explained why he was taking this risk. A level 3 zombie can already trap us. Once it reaches level 5, it could pull down airplanes. If it becomes a zombie king, the entire Jinshi base will be doomed. As soon as he said this, Bai Haoren instantly looked enlightened and immediately put on a professional smile. "We naturally support Boss Xiao's decision." The look he gave me was even more disdainful, as if saying Boss Xiao wasn't buying my act at all. But the caped zombie outside couldn't wait any longer. It absolutely despised us, rich people, and actually commanded its minions to stack themselves up against the car windows, layer by layer, trying to crush us to death alive. Just as the glass was about to shatter, in the nick of time, the pile of zombies on the front windshield suddenly vanished into thin air. The caped zombie was utterly dumbfounded. Refusing to believe it, it summoned dozens more, but the next second, they disappeared again. It filled the gap a third time, staring dead at the car. Finally, it saw a vine sneakily extending out of the car window, wrapping around the zombies, and then they instantly vanished. Meanwhile, inside the car, Secretary Zhang's face was beet red, his entire body stiff. I was holding the vine growing out of his palm, excitedly telling him, "Secretary Zhang, get ready. The next batch is coming right up." This vine was my ultimate weapon for collecting zombies. Although my spatial ability couldn't store living people, it worked like a miracle on zombies. The moment zombies entered, they were instantly immobilized. I could wipe them all out without breaking a sweat. Publicly, I claimed my space was only 300 cubic meters, but in reality, it was a massive 1,000 cubic meters. Hearing my words, Secretary Zhang nodded hastily, but his heart was beating faster and faster. When he looked up, he met Xiao Yu's face, which was as black as the bottom of a pot. He forced himself to stay calm, but internally he was screaming, "I'm just following your orders." Bai Haoran immediately caught Xiao Yu's look, and his heart skipped a beat. Could he be jealous? No, impossible. Last night, he clearly saw me storm out of Xiao Yu's room in a fit of rage, and even heard Xiao Yu furiously roar, "Get out." Thinking about how Xiao Yu had, on more than one occasion, thrown me and my clothes out the door, his anxious heart settled back down. Immediately after, he spoke to Xiao Yu. "Boss Xiao, my space is 1,000 cubic meters. Mr. Lin's is only 300. Let me do it instead." Before Xiao Yu could even react, I immediately fired back. I came up with the method, and my space is big enough. Nobody is snatching this level 3 core from me. Bai Haoran lowered his eyes, hiding his disgust, while calculating in his head that once he absorbed the core, Xiao Yu would be completely captivated by him. His persona was set in stone, so naturally, he couldn't be as pushy as me. So he wanted to use helping out as an excuse to get a piece of the pie. When the time came, Xiao Yu definitely wouldn't mistreat him. I saw right through his intentions at a glance, and openly mocked him. No way, no way. Is the selfless Secretary Bai actually trying to fight me for a core? Bai Haoran's face turned deathly pale. He whipped his head towards Xiao Yu, and hurriedly explained, "Boss Xiao, I just wanted to help. I absolutely didn't want to steal the core." That was exactly what I wanted him to say. I immediately chimed in, "Then I must have misunderstood you." Xiao Yu looked at us, and sighed wearily. "Lin Bei, stop messing around. The core is yours." Seeing Bai Haoran's expectant gaze, he added, "Secretary Bai isn't that kind of person." Bai Haoran was instantly moved, his eyes practically dripping with affection. Looking at his blatant gaze, I really wanted to pry open Xiao Yu's brain and see if he was blind. How could he not see this? The other team members also chimed in, swearing they wouldn't fight me for it. Nonsense. Who would dare go against a massive powerhouse like Boss Xiao? They were still counting on following Xiao Yu back to the Jinshi base to live a good life. This Mary Sue novel, titled Times the Apocalypse Darling, The Base Boss Loves Me Fiercely, had absolutely no logic to speak of. I couldn't even be bothered to complain anymore. I grabbed Zhang Qi, ready to harvest some zombies. But right at that moment, the caped zombie outside, having watched its minions disappear for the third time, finally flew into a rage. It roared, first commanding the ordinary zombies to retreat. Right after that, multiple, mutated zombies of all different shapes suddenly charged out from behind the horde, completely surrounding our van, the Zombie. He's getting serious now. These mutated zombies were originally saved to be his elite guards. To think he'd deploy them early just for us. The next second, a ball of fire accurately burned away the vines Secretary Zhang had hidden under the car. "Ah!" Zhang Qi let out a startled cry. Xiao Yu immediately released water droplets to put out the fire, but right after, scorching fireballs, sharp ice spikes, and razor-sharp metal blades smashed wildly against the car. Even more terrifying was a strength-type mutated zombie. It swung a fire axe, every heavy blow making the bulletproof glass violently tremble. Zhang Qi in the driver's seat was only half a step away from the axe, but this Special Forces soldier didn't even flinch. He just quickly adjusted his seat back and looked calmly at Xiao Yue. "Boss Xiao." Xiao Yu's voice was terrifyingly calm. "Open the sunroof." I subconsciously looked up, only to see her suddenly stand up, leaning half her body out of the car, with her right palm facing up. Thunder Snake awakening. Following her low shout, blinding lightning instantly erupted, condensing into a giant lightning python. Hissing, it split into several branches, accurately biting into every single mutated zombie. This was exactly her new ability after breaking through to level 3. All the zombies instantly stiffened, as expected of the female lead, breaking through 2 levels in a single day. That's just insane, but it wasn't over yet. A cold glint flashed in Xiao Yue's eyes. Her left hand swiped through the air, and water vapor rapidly condensed. The blue-purple lightning, wrapped in water mist, instantly expanded. The blinding light made me instinctively close my eyes. When the light faded, only a dozen or so zombies turned to ash, remained outside the car. Just when we thought the crisis was over, that cape-wearing zombie let out a distinct, piercing screech. Oh no! Before the words even faded, I felt like my head had been smashed by a heavy hammer. The intense pain made me instantly double over. My skull felt like it was going to explode. This unfamiliar mental energy. It's actually attacking the ability core. In my mind, I suddenly realized the most terrifying thing about this mental type zombie isn't its ability to control the horde, but its direct mental attacks. Sure enough, other than Xiao Yu, everyone in the car was clutching their heads in agony, their faces twisted in pain, especially the driver, Jiang Qi, an ordinary person. His eyes were bloodshot, looking like he was about to bleed from all his orifices. I was just about to knock him out, but Xiao Yu beat me to it. What's going on? Why is she perfectly fine? I'm a level 3 ability user too, so why is my head splitting so badly? I can't even sit up straight. Is it because I'm a fake level 3? I quickly pulled out some cotton to plug my ears, but that tearing headache remained. Damn it. This attack works directly on the mental plane. Why didn't I read the novel more carefully? Now I don't even know this thing's weakness. Right at that moment, lightning exploded outside the car. Xiao Yu was already locked in combat with that cape-wearing zombie. With the cape zombie distracted, that immense pain actually weakened. We have to go help Boss Xiao. Bai Haoren was the first to stand up, and the others quickly agreed. But just as I was about to follow, He Sheng shoved me right back into my seat. Young master, please stay in the car. I was completely speechless. Your boss isn't here right now. You need to learn to be flexible. Before I could finish, I suddenly noticed something was wrong with He Sheng's expression. Her body was trembling. Then all hell broke loose outside. Zhangqi actually whipped his vines at Bai Haoren. Bai Haoren was forced to counterattack with rocks. Even our car got dented in several places. A level 3 psychic zombie. To think it can control a group of espers all at once. This is terrifying. The next second, He Sheng viciously pinched the webbing of her own hand, using the intense pain to stay awake. She quickly locked the car doors, turned around, and yelled at me. Young master, I'll protect you. I endured the splitting headache. It's more important that you go help Xiao Yu. But she wouldn't listen at all. Just as I was burning with anxiety, she suddenly grabbed my hand, aimed for the webbing between my thumb and index finger, and pinched down hard. We were chased much my tears almost burst out. Sister, stop. I'm not being controlled. I desperately explained that I was actually fine, because I had secretly drunk the Lingquan water. But I had no way to explain where the water came from. Watching Zhang Qi and Bai Haoren outside the car, they were no longer fighting each other, but had turned to attack Xiao Yu together. I was burning with anxiety, and in his brief moments of clarity, Bai Haoren actually glared hatefully at me hiding in the car. I stared intently at Bai Haoren outside during his lucid moments. The look he gave me was full of absolute hatred. I bet he was thinking, if I hadn't insisted on getting this crystal core, he wouldn't have been controlled, let alone forced to attack the person he loved most. But right after that, his gaze towards Xiao Yue turned obsessive again. He probably thought Xiao Yu was only defending and not attacking, to protect him. Meanwhile, that cape-wearing zombie, the corners of its withered mouth twitched slightly, as if it were silently sneering. My heart skipped a beat. Its crimson pupils were filled with smugness. It was enjoying watching us slaughter each other. Its gaze swept over everyone on the battlefield, and finally, it even glanced at the car I was in. I instantly understood. It wanted to devour all of our crystal cores, to become an even more terrifying existence. But right at that moment, the zombie suddenly shuddered, as if it realized something. It frantically pushed its psychic powers, but to no avail. Even Jiang Qi, who was controlled first, started to regain clarity in his eyes. I got it. It fell for the trap. Xiao Yu had been acting from the very beginning. She deliberately made it scatter its psychic energy, just to exhaust it. Sure enough, the zombie realized it too. It stared dead at Xiao Yu's face, as if trying to carve her into its bones. The next second, it violently whipped its cape it was trying to run. In your dreams! The moment it turned around, a blinding blue-purple lightning bolt tore through the air, piercing flawlessly right through its chest. With a sickening squelch, a hole the size of a bowl appeared. Plumes of smoke rose from the charred edges, but the zombie actually didn't fall. Its twisted mouth even pulled into a mocking sneer, as if saying its heart wasn't its weak point. Before that thought could even fade, countless thick vines bounded up tightly. A golden dagger was pressed firmly against its forehead. Then Xiao Yu's icy voice rang out. Dig. He Sheng controlled the dagger and drove it in without hesitation. With a soft crack, a crystal-clear level 3 core was precisely gouged out. The vicious light in the zombie's eyes instantly extinguished, and it collapsed completely. Sitting in the car, watching this clean and decisive execution, I had to admit, the female lead's strength was truly terrifying. The future zombie king was taken out by her in just a few moves, and the newly awakened Bai Haoren looked at Xiao Yu, with admiration practically overflowing from his eyes. But the next second, his admiration turned into naked jealousy, because a column of water was holding up the loot, that quail, egg-sized, eerily glowing psychic crystal core, and steadily delivering it right in front of me. Xiao Yu saw me freeze, and reminded me, the core you wanted, but I didn't reach for it. I stammered, sister, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum demanding this zombie core. I almost got you hurt. I was wrong. I lowered my head, but my mind was racing frantically. The future zombie king died early. This proved that the plot could actually be changed. Does this mean that my tragic ending as the vicious male supporting character can also be completely reversed? Probably seeing my pitiful, dejected look, Xiao Yu coughed lightly. I made the decision. It has nothing to do with you. Take it. We still have to head to the next location. I looked up at her, making sure she wasn't being sarcastic. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. I have to say, this female lead is actually pretty reasonable sometimes. However, just as my opinion of her was improving, she sighed heavily. Take it. You have to behave from now on. No more throwing tantrums. Her probing gaze clearly said, do you really love me that much? I was speechless inside, but on the outside, I smiled like a total sycophant. I happily snatched the core. I'll definitely behave. Right then, Bai Haoren walked over. First, he looked at Xiao Yu with a face full of guilt, but then he suddenly changed his tune and looked at me. Young Master Lin Bei is truly amazing, staying wide awake in the van the whole time, and not getting controlled at all. Trying to sow discord? Huh? My mouth automatically fired back the next second. What do you mean by that? Are you blaming me for staying in the car instead of helping while I was awake? I wanted to get out, but He Sheng pinned me to the seat. What was I supposed to do? Being called out by me, He Sheng honestly smiled awkwardly at Xiao Yu and nodded in admission. Xiao Yu remained expressionless, and even shot He Sheng an approving look. But immediately after, the look she gave me actually held a hint of suspicion. She was suspecting that if even Bai Haoren was briefly controlled, how could I have stayed awake the whole time? Could my psychic power actually be on par with his? I thought to myself, oh crap, I absolutely cannot let her discover the secret of the Lingquan. So, I decided to strike first. I suddenly raised my right hand, shoving my bloody hand right in front of her face. I yelled fiercely, this is all your bodyguards doing. She saw I was about to be controlled and pinched me like crazy, just to keep me awake. My hand is practically broken. He Sheng stood to the side, scratching her head with an honest look. She hurriedly explained that she just used too much force. She originally wanted to knock me out but couldn't bring herself to do it, so she had to pinch me hard instead. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jiang Qi looking at He Sheng with an incredibly sympathetic gaze. He obviously felt that He Sheng, having offended me, was going to be in for a lot of trouble later. Xiao Yu looked helpless and pulled me over. All right, stop howling. Let me see the wound. I was best at taking advantage of a situation, so I immediately shoved my right hand in front of her. On my usually pampered, pale skin, deep purple nail marks were glaringly obvious, even oozing beads of blood. Seeing this, He Sheng hurriedly handed over the first aid kit. To my surprise, Xiao Yue stopped her. I'll do it. The moment the alcohol swab touched the wound, the piercing pain made me flinch violently. I gritted my back teeth hard, tears welling up in my eyes from the pain, but I stubbornly didn't make a sound. But it was exactly this look of enduring pain that made Xiao Yue's gaze suddenly soften. Her fingertips, which had been applying some pressure, unconsciously became completely gentle. She actually coaxed me like a child, whispering in my ear, bear with it a little longer. It'll stop hurting soon. I sniffled, and for some reason, I actually replied, okay. Then Xiao Yu noticed the bruises on my arm, and a flash of heartache actually crossed her eyes. But right at that moment, I caught a glimpse of the outer edge of the group. Bai Haoren was staring daggers at us. His glare looked like he wanted to burn holes right through me. The convoy soon started up again. The journey was surprisingly quiet. I found an empty spot, and directly released dozens of zombies from my space to use as target practice. Before the zombies could even find their footing, He Sheng's throwing knives instantly slit their throats. Everyone took the chance to recover their stamina. But of course, right at that moment, Bai Haoren started acting up. He thoughtfully handed Xiao Yu some water and bread, even deliberately unscrewing the bottle cap for her. His fingers accidentally brushed against Xiao Yu's hand. The people in the car were used to it, but alarm bells instantly went off in my head. I suddenly remembered. According to Xiao Yu's orders, Bai Haoren was supposed to keep his distance from a crazy young master like me. He always avoided me like the plague, but now, he was deliberately putting on this intimate act right in front of me. He was pushing me to lose my mind like I used to. As long as I threw the first punch, he'd have a perfectly good reason to fight back in self-defense. Then, even if he accidentally pushed me into a horde of zombies, it would just be an accident no one would look into. So that's how it is. In the previous life, the original owner pushing him into the zombie horde was entirely because he had been systematically provoked and set up by him. Hey, figuring all this out, not only did I not make a move, I just stared straight at them, watching the two of them like I was enjoying a show. Xiao Yu felt completely uncomfortable under my stare. Thinking I was going to cause trouble again, she scolded in a low voice. Why do you keep staring at me? Bai Haoren acted like nothing was going on, even deliberately leaning his body toward me, posing perfectly so I could slap him, but his ears were perked up, just waiting for me to snap. Who would have thought? I slowly tossed a potato chip into my mouth, making a loud, crisp, crunching sound. I just suddenly realized Sister and Secretary Bai are a great match. You two would make a perfect couple. One is a hypocritical green tea, and the other is completely blind. A match made in heaven. As soon as the words left my mouth, Xiao Yu nearly spat out the water in her mouth. She looked at me in utter shock, as if looking at a monster. You have to know, in the past, if any other man took even a step closer to her, I would go completely insane. I let her stare at me, and even added another sentence to completely crush Bai Haoren's scheme. I was immature before, but now I've seen the light. By Sister's side, you really do need a man like Secretary Bai to take good care of you. I'm genuinely happy for you, Sister. You two have a great life together. Just don't drag me down with you. I plan on living a long, long time. I silently complained in my head. But Xiao Yu thought I was being sarcastic and just turned her head away, ignoring me. But the moment she turned her head, she saw Bai Haoren's equally incredulous face. Then, a hint of suspicion flashed in Xiao Yu's eyes, as if she was doubting whether Bai Haoren actually liked her. Bai Haoren was secretly thrilled, but the next second, the look he gave me was full of weirdness. He definitely thought that since I wanted to offer myself to her bed yesterday, and today I was blessing him and Xiao Yu, I must be plotting some massive, earth-shattering conspiracy. Sure enough, he immediately looked up at Xiao Yu and saw the suspicion in her eyes. This bitch. He thought I wanted to expose him, so Xiao Yu would stop trusting him. Bai Haoren instantly steadied himself. He actually kept a smile on his face, looking at me like I was his own little brother. Boss Xiao, look, young Master Lin Bei is definitely jealous. You should hurry up and coax him. Then he turned back to Xiao Yu, his face full of earnestness, looking like he was only thinking of the team. If young Master Lin Bei throws a tantrum later, whether he sneaks out or attracts zombies, it'll be a huge hassle. He even added a totally unprompted, guilty excuse. I've been warned so many times. How could I possibly catch feelings? Besides, I prefer retired soldiers like Sister He. Young Master Lin Bei, please don't misunderstand. Oh boy. After that little speech, the atmosphere in the car instantly became awkward. Zhang Qi even started teasing directly. I knew He Sheng liked Little Bai, but I didn't expect Little Bai to feel the same. Ha ha ha. This is great news. Bai Haoren closed his eyes guiltily. He was definitely thinking. I'm sorry, Sister He. I'm just using you as a shield. I almost laughed out loud. Who would have thought? To clear himself of suspicion, Bai Haoren actually found himself a girlfriend on the spot. This is way more interesting than the original novel. I love watching this. The convoy continued moving forward. Soon, a vast seaport appeared before us. Densely packed shipping containers formed a steel maze. They were clearly labeled with various supplies, medical equipment, microchips, canned goods, and food. Xiao Yu immediately gave the order. Lin Bei and I are one team. The rest of you team up with Zhang Qi. We'll split up. She looked at Bai Haoren. Secretary Bai, use your own judgment on what supplies are useful. Bai Haoren immediately nodded. Understood, Boss Xiao. I won't let you down. He knew in his heart that now wasn't the time to argue about why Xiao Yue was only accompanying me. As long as he hid his feelings well, Xiao Yu would fall in love with him one day. As for an idiot like me, I posed no threat at all. Besides, I was going to die soon anyway. Thinking of this, he looked at my back, a cruel sneer curling on his lips, but he never expected that. The next second, I would suddenly turn around. Bai Haoren didn't have time to wipe the sneer off his face, and the killing intent in his eyes was exposed nakedly right in front of me. I met his gaze and flipped him off right to his face. Bai Haoren's eye twitched violently. He was definitely thinking that I had changed. If it were the old me, I would have run to Xiao Yu to tattle immediately. Bai Haoren definitely thought I was brewing some shady conspiracy. This move left him completely baffled. Little Bai, what are you spacing out for? Hurry up, Zhang Qi called out. Bai Haoren instantly put on a gentle, innocent face and obediently followed. Then, Xiao Yu cleared the way in front, protecting me behind her. The zombies in this port were nothing to her. Soon, Xiao Yue stopped in front of a shipping container. Her tone was cold. This one has imported cardiac medical equipment. Store it in your space. I raised an eyebrow. The whole container too? To my surprise, she casually blasted the doors open with a bolt of lightning. Without looking back, she said, just the supplies. The containers take up too much space. I grumbled out loud. So annoying, but inside, I was absolutely thrilled, taking only the supplies and not the containers. This was the perfect opportunity for me to smuggle goods. It created the ultimate chance. As long as I didn't put them in that public 1,000 cubic meter space, Xiao Yu would never find out how much I was stashing in my ring. Take your time storing things here. I'll guard the door. I won't let any zombies in. Don't be afraid. Seeing that I was still pouting, she actually threw out a bribe. I saw some imported snacks on the way here. I'll take you to get them later. They're all yours. Deal? I looked at her expression, which clearly said, this brat is pretty easy to coax, and sneered inwardly. This woman was probably reflecting on how harsh she used to be to me, and only now realized that gentle persuasion worked much better than violent suppression. Over the next few hours, I followed Xiao Yue, happily bouncing between the various shipping containers. By the time it started getting dark, the 1,000 cubic meter spatial ability was packed to the brim, and my ring space scored an even bigger haul. Not only did I have an endless supply of imported snacks and fruits, but I also had 2 entire containers of ice cream. Medical equipment, daily necessities, and frozen seafood were piled up like mountains. In this apocalypse, tagging along with the female lead to farm loot, and getting a 5-finger discount on everything felt absolutely amazing. Right at that moment, Xiao Yu's phone suddenly rang. Let's go find He Sheng and the others, then head back to the villa. I asked casually, weren't we supposed to go to the pharmaceutical factory? Surprisingly, Xiao Yu explained with great patience. The Jin family's helicopter has arrived. Grandpa will handle the medicine. The top priority now is returning to the Jin family. I obediently nodded. I'd already collected the medicine anyway. Xiao Yu probably didn't expect this either. Just a day ago, he couldn't even be bothered to speak to me. And now, he's actually keeping me in the loop about everything. Right then, we arrived back at the port gates. Bai Haoren immediately came up to greet us. His eyes darted between me and Xiao Yu. Mr. Xiao, did everything go smoothly? Xiao Yu gave a slight nod. Upon learning that Bai Haoren had also filled his spatial storage, a hint of satisfaction appeared on his face. Suddenly, He Sheng took a step forward. Mr. Xiao, I've awakened an ability too. As soon as he finished speaking, a wall of earth rose out of nowhere. Jiang Qi chimed in from the side. We ran into a mutated zombie earlier. He Sheng was so desperate to save little Bai that he just exploded with power. This is great. Now we've gathered all 5 elements. Metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. He Sheng completely ignored his teasing and just looked at Bai Haoren with eyes full of deep affection. Bai Haoren put on a shy expression. I stood to the side, watching with keen interest. He really found himself a professional meat shield. He Sheng took out 5 mutated zombie crystal cores and respectfully handed them to Xiao Yu. But Xiao Yu didn't even glance at them. He just flatly said, keep them for yourselves. At that, the group didn't hold back. He Sheng took his own core and immediately handed it to Bai Haoren. Haoren, this is for you. Keep it safe for me. Bai Haoren verbally declined, saying He Sheng needed it more, but He Sheng looked resolute, saying he could only protect him if he got stronger. Seeing this, Jiang Qi immediately flashed a knowing smirk. He Sheng, are you handing over your paycheck early? He Sheng's face instantly turned beet red. He stammered, unable to get a word out. Bai Haoren quickly stepped in to smooth things over, but I saw it clearly. A flash of disappointment crossed his eyes, because Xiao Yu wasn't jealous at all. In fact, he seemed happy to see it happen. As everyone chatted and laughed, I couldn't utter a single word. I stared intently at He Sheng, my mind at war with itself. Should I copy his earth ability? My copy ability is almost at level 3, and his guard is completely down around me. Probing him with my spiritual energy would be a piece of cake. With just a single thought, this ability would be mine, but I didn't dare. He Sheng is currently Bai Haoren's unofficial boyfriend. In the original novel, anyone who got in the main character's way met a terrible end. I was afraid he wouldn't survive for more than a few days, copying the ability of a guy who's about to kick the bucket. What's the point? I really regretted that when I read the novel. I only focused on the spicy scenes between the leads. I skipped all the endings for these side characters. Forget it, I won't copy it for now. My 6 elemental abilities are enough anyway. Suddenly, I announced that I really needed to pee, and quickly slipped away from them. Of course, needing to pee was a lie. Hoarding supplies was the real goal. Taking advantage of the fact that no one followed me, I made a beeline for the secret base behind the lounge. Not far away, there were actually 2 massive shipping containers. I opened them up and took a look. Not only were they filled with high-end jewelry, there were even top-tier imported RVs. Such incredible treasures. If Xiao Yu won't take them, I will. With a mere thought, I instantly stuffed all this wealth into my spatial ring. But the real surprise was yet to come. In the container next door, it was packed to the brim with designer clothes for all 4 seasons, polar cold weather gear, rock climbing shoes, and hiking backpacks, everything you could ever need. There were even snowmobiles and snowboards. It was practically tailor-made for me. Without a second thought, I went into a frenzy. Loot, loot, loot. It wasn't until I swallowed the last box of home appliances into my space that I slowly made my way back. Just then, I heard Jiang Qi's anxious shout. I'm over here. I got lost. I couldn't find the restroom. I played innocent and let Jiang Qi lead me back to the restroom entrance. Seeing me appear, Bai Haoren immediately started with his hypocritical green tea act, scolding me for running off and getting Jiang Qi in trouble. I let out a cold sneer and shot right back. A dog really can't stop eating shit. Bai Haoren took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the malice in his eyes, and urged me to hurry up and go inside. Right after, he and I walked into the restroom one after the other. As my body finally found relief, before the refreshing feeling even passed, I suddenly realized something was wrong. The stall next to me was eerily quiet. Aside from the initial sound of the door closing, not only was there no sound of Bai Haoren peeing, even the rustling of his clothes had completely vanished. This guy didn't come here to use the toilet at all. A chill shot straight up the back of my head. He went through all that trouble to follow me in. Does he want me to die in this stall? Just then, a fake-sounding flush echoed through the restroom. But I knew Bai Haoren wasn't flushing the toilet at all. He was flushing air. I calmly adjusted my pants and quietly crouched in the stall, watching his little performance. It wasn't until his footsteps faded away, and he even started chatting with He Sheng outside, that I realized things were far from simple. What kind of dirty trick is Bai Haoren plotting? I quietly stepped onto the toilet seat and peeked my head over the top. What I saw made my blood run cold. Right outside the door of my stall, 3 zombies were standing guard. Their eyes were hollow, and their mouths were covered in frost. It was obvious someone had used an ice ability to freeze their mouths shut and forcibly teleported them here. I never would have imagined that to get rid of me, Bai Haoren would actually stoop to such a despicable, low-blow tactic. He really pulled out all the stops. Why hasn't young Master Lin come out yet? Bai Haoren put on a pretentious act outside. Then he added, Mr. Xiao hates people with no sense of time the most. We need to hurry. I sneered coldly. He's trying to use Xiao Yu to pressure me, forcing me to walk right into a trap and bump into the zombies. He Sheng remained silent, clearly too embarrassed to rush me. But Bai Haoren only got more enthusiastic the more he spoke, practically begging for me to push the door open and walk to my death the very next second. Right at that moment, the ice on the zombies' mouths began to melt. Their rotting, guttural snarls were now mere inches away. I stared at the 2 large buckets of reserve water in the corner, and a plan instantly formed in my mind. Since he wants to play, then I'll play a big game with him. I violently yanked the stall door open and let out a blood-curdling, ear-piercing scream. At the same time, outside the door, the corners of Baihaoren's mouth curled up wildly. He was certain that the moment I opened the door, I'd be dead meat. After all, he had calculated that I was terrified of zombies, and my first reaction to seeing such monsters would definitely be to scream. And that scream would be the perfect GPS for the zombies. It would be my death knell. Right now, he was probably already burning paper money for me in his head. However, for all of Baihaoren's scheming, he never calculated that I was hiding a trump card too. The instant my scream rang out, I instantly activated my water ability. I controlled the water in the buckets, sending it surging into the air. The transparent stream of water formed a massive bed, firmly lifting and suspending me in midair. The zombies below roared like maniacs, desperately snapping and biting upwards, but they couldn't even touch the soles of my shoes. Hearing the commotion, Shang felt his heart violently clench. He practically smashed the door to pieces as he charged into the restroom. What met his eyes were 3 frenzied zombies and a floor covered in foul stench. In that moment, Shang's eyes filled with absolute despair. He thought I had already been eaten alive, but who could have guessed that when he suddenly looked up, he would actually find me lying securely on a waterbed suspended in midair. Brother, save me. I screamed, my voice thick with tears, my fingers desperately clawing at the edge of the water stream. Seeing this, Shang's gaze instantly turned razor sharp. 3 streaks of golden light tore through the air, precisely piercing through the zombies' skulls. Seeing the threat eliminated, I instantly deactivated my ability. The waterbed holding me up collapsed with a splash. I plummeted from the air and ended up crashing perfectly into Shang's arms. Baihaoren rushed in right behind him. Seeing the scene before him, his eyes nearly popped out of his head. Not only was I not dead, I had actually awakened a water ability right in front of everyone. Shang's entire body went stiff. It was probably his first time being hugged so tightly by someone. But looking at my weak and helpless state, the hands he had meant to push me away with actually softened. He softly comforted me. Don't be afraid. It's okay now. But just as he finished speaking, hurried footsteps echoed from the hallway. It turned out my scream earlier was so piercing that it directly drew Xiao Yu and his group over. Xiao Yu took one look at me, completely drenched and shivering uncontrollably, and his face instantly turned livid. He strode forward, wanting to take me from Shang's arms, but I stubbornly refused to let go, and instead buried myself even deeper into Shang's sleeve, crying out, "There are zombies. I'm so scared." In that moment, a strange look flashed through Xiao Yu's eyes. He never expected that the me who used to revolve around him all day would now, after being frightened, actually prefer to hide in someone else's arms, and absolutely refuse to let him hold me. So, without any more hesitation, he forcefully snatched me into his own embrace. Right after, the highly perceptive Zhang Qi immediately handed over a dry jacket. Xiao Yu smoothly wrapped me up tightly in it. However, in the next second, he shot a cold glare at Shang and sternly demanded, "What exactly happened here?" Baihaoren hurriedly opened his mouth, wanting to interject and cover it up, but Xiao Yu's knife-like glare pinned him dead in his tracks. He was grinding his teeth in anxiety, but could only watch helplessly as the truth was exposed. Shang didn't dare hide anything, and immediately confessed everything truthfully. After hearing this, Xiao Yue unleashed a furious barrage of scolding, demanding to know why he hadn't inspected the restroom beforehand. Shang lowered his head, his face full of guilt, and gritted his teeth, taking all the blame upon himself. Seeing this, Baihaoren secretly breathed a sigh of relief on the side, thinking he had dodged a bullet. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yu instantly shot his icy gaze toward him, coldly questioning why he, who came out first, hadn't noticed anything unusual. Baihaoren's face turned pale. He feigned composure and argued that the zombies must have appeared later. Xiao Yue unceremoniously cut him off with a cold voice, stating bluntly that from the time he came out to when I was in danger was less than 3 minutes. Zombies move so slowly, it's absolutely impossible for them to just appear out of thin air. He even pointed out that the restroom's back door was locked tight, and the skylight was intact. These zombies didn't come in from the outside at all. Being exposed in public like this, Baihaoren's back was instantly drenched in cold sweat. But knowing Xiao Yu's temper all too well, he gritted his teeth and continued making excuses, saying that the power was out inside, and it was pitch black. He was on the outermost side, while I was on the innermost side. I didn't notice because the distance was too far. Watching Baihaoren trembling as he explained himself, I felt an unparalleled sense of satisfaction in my heart, because this scene was a complete reversal of my memories from my past life. In the past, the one silently crying and playing the victim was Baihaoren, while I was the unlucky bastard forced by Xiao Yue to apologize. Now, the tables have turned. All I have to do is sit back, relax, and quietly watch how long he can keep up this act. Walk the male lead's path, and leave the male lead with no path to walk. Baihaoren looked at Xiao Yu's razor-sharp gaze, and his heart sank. He felt that Xiao Yu had changed. The next second, Xiao Yu actually crouched down and carefully inspected the zombie corpses. He suddenly looked up, staring pointedly at Baihaoren. These zombies have dust on them, yet their footprints are only inside the restroom. There are no traces outside whatsoever. He paused, his tone growing even colder. It's almost as if someone placed them into the young master's stall out of thin air. Baihaoren forced himself to stay calm, and even played along with his words. Mr. Xiao's guess makes a lot of sense. A spatial ability could accomplish that. As soon as he said this, everyone instantly remembered how I had used my spatial ability to store zombies earlier that day. Suspicious gazes simultaneously shot toward me. After all, I had a terrible track record. Who knew what kind of stunt I was pulling this time? Seeing this, Haren felt incredibly smug, thinking he had successfully shifted the blame onto me. He even added fuel to the fire. I admit my spatial ability can store zombies too, but I've been with everyone all day today. On the other hand, the young master, on the way to the restroom, was missing for a full 5 minutes. His calculations were clicking perfectly into place. The power to the entire port had been cut off by Xiao Yu. There were no security cameras. No one could produce any evidence. Plus, with my long list of past offenses, with absolutely no one would believe me. However, Xiao Yu just stared fixedly at Haren, his hand supporting me, not loosening in the slightest. Right at that moment, Shang spoke up with absolute certainty. These zombies could absolutely not have been arranged by the young master himself. His gaze was resolute, as he recalled the scene when he rushed into the restroom. He testified that the sheer terror in my eyes at that moment, and my desperate trembling on the brink of death, could not be faked. He firmly believed that someone like me, a spoiled brat who meticulously styled every strand of hair, would absolutely never, just to frame someone else, risk getting scratched and disfigured. Hearing Shang defend me so fiercely, I curled my lips in satisfaction. Well, my stellar acting earlier didn't go to waste after all. Of course, it wasn't entirely an act. As a fragile college student from a peaceful era, I was genuinely terrified of zombies. But Xiao Yu remained silent. This unnatural silence caused the people around us to start whispering. Just as everyone was murmuring among themselves, my choked, tearful voice drifted softly from over Xiao Yu's shoulder. I lifted my tear-streaked face, my voice soft but every word crystal clear. The lie detector we found earlier is in my spatial storage. I'm willing to take a test to prove my innocence. These words were like a clap of thunder, instantly making Haren's scalp tingle with dread. He had no idea I had that thing in my space. His heart pounded wildly. He tightly gripped his wrist, unable to suppress the frantic pulse that felt like it was going to burst from his chest. It's over. I'm really done for this time. Everyone stared intently at Xiao Yu, waiting for him to give me justice. Who could have expected him to just coldly drop the line, "Let's head back to the villa first"? I never would have imagined that at the critical moment, he would still choose to smooth things over. The anger in my heart instantly flared to my head. "You actually still don't believe me?" Xiao Yu reached out, trying to pull me back, muttering some nonsense about the temperature dropping at night and being afraid I'd catch a cold. But I backhanded him and activated my water ability, instantly evaporating the excess moisture from my clothes. I ignored him, pointing right at his nose and cursing. "Xiao Yue, you're completely blind. You can't see the truth at all." Even if Xiao Yu was currently still reminiscing about the old me who only knew how to throw tantrums and cause trouble, I would absolutely never look back. He thought I would be like before, hiding behind him whenever I encountered a zombie, and that he could even secretly have Shang keep an eye on Haren. But I knew very well in my heart, from this moment on, that White Lotus male lead and I were sworn enemies locked in a fight to the death. This guy, Haren, constantly sowed discord, and even tried to use zombies to kill me. Since he wants me dead, then there's no need for me to pretend to be harmless anymore. Even if the novel's world collapses because of his death, I couldn't care less. I don't have any system missions anyway, nor have I ever suffered electric shock punishments. My mental state right now is perfectly normal. Either we all live together peacefully, or we all just die together. I suddenly stopped in front of a shipping container, and with a flick of my wrist, released a massive pile of medical equipment from my space. Right after, I stored away an entire box of high-end hair gel and designer sneakers. Xiao Yu caught up and saw this. With a face full of helplessness, he told Haren to store the medical equipment in his space. As a result, that idiot Haren actually thought Xiao Yu was trusting him, and even felt that Xiao Yu's refusal to use the lie detector was because he had seen through my acting. Just as he was smugly thinking he had won again, I directly and coldly spoke up, demanding that Haren give my off-road vehicle back. Xiao Yu still tried to reason with me, saying that the Jin family had as many cars as I could ever want, but I just stiffened my neck and didn't say a word, staring daggers at him. It wasn't until Xiao Yu weakly waved his hand, signaling Haren to do as I asked, that I tossed out a pile of supplies to free up space. The next second, I stored the off-road vehicle and ignored everyone. Xiao Yu looked at my angry back, wanting to explain, but felt that bowing his head in public would damage his pride. Little did he know, I wasn't mad about some off-road vehicle at all. I was mad at his blind, indiscriminate indulgence of Haren. Since he thinks Haren's spatial ability is more useful, then we'll just wait and see. For the sake of Haren's spatial ability, Xiao Yu actually forced me to swallow my grievances. He even fantasized that I would eventually understand his good intentions, but he never, ever expected that this assumption would leave him agonizing over it for the rest of his life. If he had firmly chosen to stand by my side back then, would the ending have been completely different? In the car on the way back, I deliberately huddled in the back seat without saying a word, radiating an aura of utter frustration. Beside me, Zhang Qi actually tried to lean in and coax me, even fawningly congratulating me on awakening my water ability. Not only that, he was so clueless that he insisted on pointing out how Xiao Yu and I both had water abilities. It's practically destiny. I stared at Zhang Qi with a dark, chilling sneer. The human body is 70% water. If you annoy me again, heh, that threat sure worked. Jiangqi was so scared he snapped his mouth shut and even made a zipping motion across his lips. After a round of scavenging, we finally returned to the villa. But to my surprise, there was actually a helicopter parked on the helipad. The first floor living room was brightly lit. The moment I walked in, I was surrounded by Lan Yi and Ji Jia. They looked me up and down, and only breathed a sigh of relief when they confirmed I wasn't hurt. Right at that moment, I suddenly noticed a strange woman sitting on the sofa. The woman had an icy aura, carrying a casual yet aggressive presence. Then she looked up at me. Those deep eyes instantly made my heart race. I never would have imagined that this incredibly aggressive face would actually make someone like me, who had seen the world, feel that she was simply too beautiful. Xiao Yu suddenly stepped forward, his voice even carrying a hint of excitement. Auntie, why did you come in person? Auntie? Hearing those two words, my heart skipped a beat. I could practically hear the sound of my heart breaking. Who could have thought that this woman, who was so beautiful it was almost a sin, was actually the original novel's mysterious and unfathomable super boss, Zitang. She was the absolute pinnacle of power in the apocalypse. I absolutely can't afford to offend her. I quickly gathered my thoughts and obediently lowered my head just like Xiao Yu. Auntie, you're here. Zitang gave me a faint glance. She merely gave a slight nod. The surrounding air instantly dropped to freezing point. I grabbed Zixia and decisively picked a seat as far away from her as possible, definitely more than 2 meters away. Aunt Lan glared reproachfully at Xiao Yu. She obviously thought he had made me mad again, which was why I refused to sit over there. Once everyone was seated, Zitang finally spoke slowly. Grandpa was worried about my sister, so he had me make the trip personally. Xiao Yu asked with a shocked expression, weren't you abroad this whole time? International flights have been suspended for a while now. Zitang lifted her eyelids, her tone so indifferent it didn't have a single fluctuation. 6 hours ago. Zitang dropped that sentence and shut her mouth, clearly not wanting to say more. But Xiao Yu looked like he completely understood, and the look in his eyes was filled with even more awe. I knew Xiao Yu was imagining how, with the world undergoing such massive changes, this woman was actually able to fly back across the out-of-control Pacific Ocean. The price she must have paid behind the scenes was simply unimaginable. The usually arrogant and conceited Xiao Yue became exceptionally docile in front of Zitang. He even started talking more. He showed off like a peacock shaking its tail feathers, saying he had not only awakened a level 3 lightning element, but also a level 1 water element. He even took all the credit for collecting a massive amount of supplies and pinned it on himself. However, Zitang just gave a cold, not even batting an eye. I was so sleepy, my eyelids were fighting each other. So I just half lay on the sofa, nodding off to sleep. But right at that moment, Xiao Zixia gave me a hard shove, lowering his voice to warn me. Brother Xiaobei, Auntie is talking to you. I rubbed my eyes, looking at Zitang groggily. Auntie, what did you say? Zitang's face remained indifferent, but she surprisingly repeated herself with rare patience, asking if I had also awakened dual element abilities. Yes, spatial and water elements. After saying that, I didn't forget to shoot Xiao Yu a fierce glare and let out a cold snort. At this, Xiao Yu's face drastically changed. He frantically winked at me, while his palms sweated nervously. After all, this Zitang was a famous female Yama in the capital circles. She retired from the front lines at 27, went to Wall Street to call the shots, and never left any survivors when she made a move. I could even faintly smell that lingering scent of blood on Zitang. This woman clearly just fought her way out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. In Xiao Yu's eyes, other than their grandfather and mother, his aunt didn't care about anyone else at all, let alone an adopted son like me with zero blood relation. But I just wouldn't buy into his act. Instead, I lifted my head and stared straight into Zitang's eyes. Auntie, what ability did you awaken? At this question, Zitang actually froze. She seemed completely caught off guard by my audacity. Normally, no one would dare pry into her background like this, but as she looked into my crystal clear eyes, not only was she not angry, a fleeting trace of gentleness even flashed in her eyes. Who knew that right as Zitang was about to speak, Xiao Yu suddenly stood up and hastily interrupted with a panicked look. Auntie, Bebe is young and ignorant. He offended you. I apologize on his behalf. Zitang looked at Xiao Yu playfully, clearly seeing through Xiao Yu's subconscious possessiveness over me. However, I didn't appreciate it at all. I even curled my lips in disgust and subtly shifted my body 2 inches back. My eagerness to draw a line between us, compared to the image in the files of the one obsessively clinging to Xiao Yu, was like night and day. The amusement in Zitang's eyes deepened. She suddenly waved her hand and casually dropped a bombshell. It's no secret. I awakened a control-type ability. As soon as she said that, the entire living room fell dead silent. Control-type ability? What the hell was that? We had never heard of it before. Just as everyone was full of confusion, but too afraid to ask, I just blurted out, what's a control-type ability? How is it different from the mental-type zombie we met today? What's the difference? Auntie, can you control zombies too? Xiao Yu's warning glare was practically piercing through me, but I was going to ask anyway. The original book only said Zitang was ruthless and manipulative, but never mentioned her ability. Besides, this woman's looks were completely my type. I really couldn't bring myself to be afraid of her. I didn't believe for a second that any elder would turn hostile and kill a junior, just for asking a few questions. But this time, even Aunt Lan couldn't sit still. She looked at Ziteng with a slightly changed expression. Bebe is still young. Please don't hold it against him. Ziteng's expression didn't change. She even chuckled. Sister, what are you afraid of? I don't eat people. Even so, Aunt Lan immediately shot Xiao Zhixia a look, signaling him to hurry up and take me away. Xiao Zhixia instantly caught the signal, grabbed my hand, and dragged me upstairs. Brother Xiaobei, weren't you sleepy? Hurry upstairs and go to sleep. It wasn't until this moment that I finally realized something was wrong. The panic and fear in Aunt Lan's eyes, when she looked at me, wasn't fake at all. It was as if she was terrified that in the next second, Ziteng would snap my neck. I could ignore the female lead's words, but Aunt Lan would never harm me. That realization made my heart tighten. I stopped struggling and let Xiao Zhixia pull me up from the sofa. I even squeezed out an obedient smile and bowed to Ziteng. Auntie, I'll head upstairs to rest now. Ziteng didn't reply, merely lifting her eyelids to give me a faint glance. That gaze was so heavy it made it hard to breathe. Xiao Zhixia was practically half dragging, half pulling me as we ran upstairs. His palms were covered in cold sweat, as if some terrifying, man-eating monster was right behind us at the corner of the stairs. I couldn't help but glance back, and that single glance made my heart sink heavily. Down in the living room, both Xiao Yue and Aunt Lan visibly let out a sigh of relief. This was way too weird. This wasn't how a family interacted at all. They were clearly dealing with an emperor who held the power of life and death. As soon as we entered the room, I immediately shook off Xiao Zhixia's hand, turned around, and pinned him against the door. I lowered my voice and interrogated him. Xiao Zhixia, tell me the truth. What's the deal with Ziteng? Why are all of you so afraid of her? My mind was full of Ziteng's stunningly beautiful yet cold face. This wasn't just awe. It was a fear carved deep into their bones. Xiao Zhixia had already expected me to ask. He calmly brushed it off. What else could it be? It's just that she's too strong, and we're afraid of provoking her. That's all. I cut him right off. Do you think I'm an idiot? If it were that simple, they definitely wouldn't have reacted like that. Xiao Zhixia's script was interrupted. He didn't expect me to have a brain and be hard to fool, but he just kept coaxing me. I don't know either. The last time I saw her was in kindergarten. I just saw that you guys were scared of her, so I got scared too. I looked at him suspiciously. His excuse did make sense. After all, Ziteng went out to make a living as soon as she came of age. Xiao Zhixia really hadn't seen her in over a decade. With that, I stopped pressing the issue. Anyway, with Aunt Lan around, Ziteng wouldn't go as far as killing her sisters, Savior's child. The only pity was, I still didn't figure out her control type ability. Does it control people? Control zombies? Or control ability users? Damn it, this ability sounds incredibly overpowered. I really want to copy it. Xiao Zhixia saw my eager expression and quickly warned me, Ziteng is totally capable of throwing you into a horde of zombies. Whatever you do, don't provoke her. I nodded. I knew that. I finally managed to transmigrate into a book and become a young master. I didn't want to court death, but right after I sent Xiao Zhixia away, Aunt Lan knocked and came in to bring me milk. Then she started nagging frantically in my ear. Bebe, you have to stay away from your aunt, even further away. She really will throw you into a zombie horde. If she looks unhappy on the outside, she's truly unhappy. If she looks happy on the outside, she might be even more unhappy. Aunt Lan's barrage of warnings actually completely piqued my curiosity. So the female lead's moody and unpredictable behavior was learned from Ziteng. Looking at Aunt Lan's genuinely worried eyes, I nodded solemnly. I promise I'll stay far, far away from Auntie from now on. Only then did Aunt Lan hug me in relief. My baby has grown up, so obedient. But as soon as she left, I wasn't sleepy at all anymore. I sat cross-legged on the bed and felt my ability core. On the surface, I was a level 3 spatial and level 1 water user, but in reality, both my lightning and spatial elements were level 3. The remaining metal, wood, fire, water, and earth elements were all level 2. I immediately flashed into my spatial domain. Today's events made me realize that only by being strong myself could I be truly safe. I started training like crazy. When my energy was depleted, I drank spiritual spring water to recover, and then kept going, because I knew that all the abilities I had were copied. I had the levels, but lacked the matching combat experience. Even though I had top-tier abilities, I couldn't use them proficiently right now. Just as I was training fiercely in my space, urgent knocking came from outside my door. Xiao Yu stood at the door, his palms covered in cold sweat. Yet there was absolutely no sound coming from inside. Xiao Yu's mind was full of the scene from just now. It was the look Ziteng had given me, cold and profound, like she was examining a prey she was determined to get. Xiao Yu knew all too well that Lin Bei wasn't the Z family's own flesh and blood. In Ziteng's eyes, only blood ties were a protective charm, and Lin Bei lacked exactly that. With Ziteng's methods, if she really wanted to make a move on Lin Bei, she wouldn't hesitate for a second. Not only that, Ziteng's past was a taboo subject that the entire capital kept strictly silent about. Xiao Yu was burning with anxiety. He didn't dare imagine what kind of terror was hidden behind all that. He only knew he had to stop me before things spiraled out of control. After all, in his eyes, I was still that clueless fool who had no idea what kind of monster I was facing. Lin Bei opened the door. He finally couldn't help but growl, his voice full of impatience. But I was focused on training in my space, completely oblivious to this. Who knew this commotion would attract Bai Haoren? He hid behind his door, his eyes full of malicious jealousy. Why should a stupid man like me get everyone's protection? But the moment he stepped out of his room, he was immediately blocked by Heshing. Secretary Bai, please return to your room. Bai Haoren glared at him. Had President Xiao already started monitoring him? Was it because of what happened at the port? His expression fluctuated wildly, concluding that I must have badmouthed him to President Xiao. At this moment, Heshing remained expressionless, but was sneering internally. This Secretary Bai was refusing to take the easy road, and insisting on seeking his own doom. He warned in a deep voice, President Xiao ordered that Ms. Zitang likes peace and quiet. Please do not wander around. After saying that, his gaze swept toward the tightly shut door on the first floor. The bodyguards at the door stood like statues, exuding a chilling, murderous aura. This sight actually made Bai Haoren sigh in relief. So it was because Zitang was present that President Xiao restricted everyone's movements. As for President Xiao, he had specifically gone to my room. A mocking sneer curled on Bai Haoren's lips. It must be because I kept courting death in the living room earlier, provoking President Xiao into personally teaching me a lesson. So he went back to his room to rest with peace of mind. After all, there were only 3 hours left until the flight departed, and he absolutely didn't want to lose face in front of Miss Zitang. Watching Bai Haoren retreat, Hesheng also finally breathed a sigh of relief. If they really made a scene and disturbed that person, no one could bear the consequences. Poor Xiao Yu stood outside my door for a full 15 minutes just like that. Meanwhile, I was still in my space, grinding levels like crazy. Completely oblivious, Xiao Yu at this moment suddenly let out a self-deprecating sneer. If I directly angered Ziteng and disappeared without a trace, it would be for the best. It would save him the trouble of dealing with me. Who knew Heshing's voice would suddenly come from behind? Miss Ziteng is calling for you. At this time, while cultivating in my space, I was actually releasing my mental energy, observing the situation outside crystal clear. Inside Ziteng's room, only a few dim wall lamps were lit. This woman was casually sinking into the sofa. Her slender, well-defined fingers were holding an exquisite teacup. Yet, what was poured inside was actually dark red, expensive wine. Xiao Yu stepped inside, instantly intimidated by this overwhelming, domineering presence. To break the silence, he offered to fetch a limited edition wine glass from the auction. However, Ziteng merely raised her eyes slightly. That profound gaze sent chills down my spine even across the spatial dimension. Who made the rule that you have to drink wine from a wine glass? She asked coldly. Then, she downed the expensive wine in one gulp as if drinking cheap tea. Every movement exuded an unquestionable dominance. The cup slammed onto the table, neither light nor heavy, making a crisp clack. This sound made Xiao Yu's heart suddenly jolt. Unexpectedly, Ziteng's next words cut straight to the chase, hitting the nail on the head. Speak. What's the deal with that male secretary? Xiao Yu's heart skipped a beat, finally realizing that his little tricks couldn't hide anything from Ziteng. He could only explain in a low voice that he kept Bai Haoren around, simply because his spatial domain held a massive amount of supplies, and he would figure out what to do with him once they returned to the capital base. But Ziteng just rubbed the rim of her cup, her tone playful. You've got some nerve. What about that kid? Those few simple words pierced through Xiao Yu's defenses like a steel needle. At this moment, Xiao Yu's expression was extremely conflicted. He opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to plead for me. Finally, he took a deep breath and brought up my mother's life-saving grace to the Z family, hoping Ziteng would show mercy. But as soon as the words left his mouth, even he felt it was absurd and laughable. Who was Ziteng? She was a figure high up in the clouds, who didn't even spare a glance for top-tier socialites. How could she possibly take an interest in a stupid kid like me? So he quickly forced a smile and explained that I was just throwing a childish tantrum, and that I would follow arrangements once we returned to the capital. Ziteng didn't press the issue. She naturally changed the subject and started discussing the power struggles among the major factions in the capital. At this, Xiao Yu's hanging heart finally settled back into his chest. In his eyes, Ziteng was 11 years older than me, so it was absolutely impossible for her to have any thoughts about me. But he had no idea that Ziteng's gaze, like one examining prey, had already locked onto me dead center, and I was watching them coldly from the shadows, looking forward to the coming storm. I didn't sleep all night, yet I felt exceptionally energetic. Spiritual spring water really is good stuff. The only pity was that, although I was more proficient with my abilities, my levels hadn't broken through. Since my spatial domain was no longer a secret, I couldn't be bothered to hide it anymore. I just took out hot pot base and all kinds of ingredients, and started boiling hot pot first thing in the morning. It had to be double spicy. Beef rolls, lamb rolls, shrimp paste, and seafood, throw them all in the pot. Who made the rule that you can't eat hot pot in the morning? Before transmigrating, I had been craving it for over half a year. Today, I was going to eat to my heart's content. Xiao Jixia smelled the food and came over, fighting me for food while issuing warnings, telling me to stay away from that dangerous Ziteng. We were both eating happily when Xiao Yu suddenly appeared at the door. He looked at us like we were two idiots, shook his head with a smile, and said, "Just eat a little and get ready to board. Don't be late." I couldn't even be bothered to acknowledge him. After eating and drinking my fill, I just sprawled out on the sofa, leaving the mess entirely to Xiao Jixia. This young master was so clumsy that he actually knocked over the sauce bowl and had to go back to his room to change clothes. I didn't expect Aunt Lan to personally come see me off to board the plane. She nagged me the whole way, terrified that I would make my aunt angry. I had no choice but to obediently promise, from now on, I'll stay 2 meters away from Big Sister and double that 4 meters away from Auntie. Is that okay? Aunt Lan froze for a moment, then said, silly child, just stay away from your aunt. You don't need to stay that far from your big sister. Haven't you wanted to marry into your big sister's family since you were little? I almost blurted out the truth about last night, but swallowed the words right as they reached my lips. No matter how much Aunt Lan loved me, she was still Xiao Yu's biological mother. Wouldn't I just be asking for trouble by complaining about her daughter? So I could only act shamelessly. Aunt Lan, I stopped liking Big Sister a long time ago. Now I just see her as my real sister. Aunt Lan agreed verbally, but her eyes were full of disbelief. She just treated it as a child throwing a tantrum. Once on the plane, I saw Xiao Yu walking toward me, immediately snorted coldly, and switched seats to sit next to Hesheng, staying far away from him. Xiao Yu's footsteps paused, but he surprisingly didn't say anything. True, in his mind, I was just a brat who loved throwing tantrums. This time I was just ignoring him, not calling him blind in public, and not throwing a fit. In his eyes, that was obedient enough. Right after, Hesheng gave him a knowing nod, meaning he would protect me well. I was practically sickened by the tacit understanding between this master and servant. Just then, Bai Haoren walked over gracefully, carrying porridge and an eye mask. He fussed over Xiao Yue, showing the utmost care and consideration. Xiao Yue actually accepted the eye mask, and Bai Haoren took the opportunity to sit right next to him, refusing to leave. Watching this scene, I complained frantically in my head. This male lead sure is considerate, but he completely ignored his official girlfriend Hesheng, yet was so devoted to Xiao Yue. Surprisingly, no one around thought anything was wrong. They all looked like they were used to it. This world is getting more and more interesting. Fine, I guess I'm just ignorant. Right at that moment, unhurried footsteps came from the boarding gate. It was Zaiting. She was still wearing the same suit from last night. A few loose strands of hair fell across her forehead, stripping away the aloofness from her overly exquisite face and instead giving her a highly aggressive kind of beauty. At this moment, only one word remained in my mind. Beautiful. That sharp and direct beauty, carrying a heart-trembling sense of oppression, instantly made me throw Aunt Lan's warnings and Xiao Jixia's cautions completely out the window. My body reacted faster than my brain. I subconsciously stood up, a harmless smile spreading across my face. Auntie, good morning. As soon as the words left my mouth, the air in the entire cabin instantly froze. Zaiting's footsteps paused imperceptibly. Her profound eyes landed on my face, as if examining some novel plaything. He definitely didn't expect me to not be afraid of him. After all, a whole night has passed. There's no way Xiao Yue and Aunt Lan didn't warn me to stay far away from a dangerous guy like him. Yet, while everyone else was standing respectfully, not even daring to breathe too loudly, I actually had the guts to greet him so openly. The very next second, his thin lips curled up slightly. The smile was fleeting. Interesting. Xiao Yu stood up almost instantly, instinctively shielding me behind her. But just as she was about to speak, Ziteng raised a hand to stop her. His gaze bypassed Xiao Yu and landed straight on my face. The corners of his lips lifted slightly. His voice was unbelievably gentle. Good morning, little Lin Bei. I regretted it on the spot. I wanted to bite my own tongue off. Didn't I decide to stay away from him? Damn my obsession with good looks. But, the moment he smiled at me, I admit, I completely fell for it. The moment this untouchable flower bloomed, it was breathtakingly beautiful. For a second, I couldn't help but think, is everyone making Ziteng out to be scarier than he actually is? Look at him. Doesn't he look kind when he smiles? It wasn't until Ziteng sat down, and the bodyguards pulled the privacy curtain shut, that the frozen air in the cabin finally started circulating again. Hisheng quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Her back was already drenched in cold sweat. Clearly, I had scared the crap out of her just now too. Right after that, Xiao Yu completely ignored Bai Haoren's fawning, and walked straight toward me. Hisheng tactfully gave up her seat. I glared fiercely at Xiao Yu, my voice full of annoyance. Go away. Stay away from me. But she just had to sit down right next to me. She sighed helplessly. Stop messing around. Just be quiet for a bit. She lowered her voice and made a shush gesture toward Ziteng's direction. I let out a cold scoff, turned my head to look out the window, and didn't want to say a single word to her. Watching the churning clouds outside, my mind was full of curiosity about the Z family and the Jin family base. Yet Xiao Yue, this idiot, was so choked up by my attitude that she couldn't say a word. She just sat there awkwardly, frozen in place. You have to understand, she's Old Master Z's most beloved granddaughter and the illustrious heir to the Xiao family. Since childhood, others have only ever had to read her mood. She never had to carefully cater to someone else's feelings like this. Not to mention, for the past dozen years, I was always the one acting like her lapdog. Even if I occasionally got jealous or angry, the one who eventually swallowed their pride and backed down was always me. But now, I was actually ignoring her. This made her extremely uncomfortable. She could only stiffly close her eyes and pretend to sleep, using it to hide her frustration. In truth, she hadn't slept a wink last night. Right now, exhaustion was hitting her like a tidal wave, but she just couldn't figure out why I'd suddenly changed, and she especially couldn't figure out why the cold-blooded Ziteng was acting so gentle toward me of all people. Not far away, Aunt Lan saw this scene. Not only was she not angry, a hint of amusement actually flashed in her eyes. It seemed she felt that her arrogant daughter had finally come to her senses. Meanwhile, Bai Haoren was gripping the blanket in his hands so tightly, going absolutely crazy with jealousy. To curry favor with Xiao Yu, he had only slept for 2 hours before getting up to make soup. And the result? Xiao Yu ran off to keep me company instead, and I hadn't done a damn thing. I even gave her attitude. Just as Bai Haoren closed his eyes in pain, fantasizing that he was the only one worthy of standing by Xiao Yu's side, He Sheng suddenly grabbed his hand. Haoren, since Boss Xiao isn't here, can I sit here and keep you company? Looking at He Sheng's face, weathered from years in the sun, completely lacking any feminine charm, Bai Haoren forced down his disgust and lowered his head. Of course. He agreed verbally, but his eyes were full of revulsion. He had completely forgotten that he was the one who publicly confessed to He Sheng, using her as a meat shield. In the blink of an eye, the plane broke through the clouds. The outline of Shu City clearly appeared below. Suddenly, the entire cabin fell dead silent. Yesterday, when we drove out to gather supplies, we deliberately avoided the city center. We hadn't witnessed true hell at all. But now, looking down from thousands of meters in the air, the tragic state of the entire city was exposed before our eyes without any concealment. On the once bustling streets, there was a dense, writhing mass of black zombies. Even the glass facades of the skyscraper were covered in dried blood. What shocked me even more was the survivors struggling to stay alive in the ruins. Not only did they have to dodge zombies, they were even slaughtering each other, just to fight over a single pack of instant noodles. Is this the apocalypse? I muttered to myself, my fingernails digging hard into my palms. It wasn't until this moment, when the mask of civilization was completely torn away, that I truly realized this was no longer just cold text in a book. It was the bloody, brutal reality that I had to face. Hearing my voice, Xiao Yu suddenly opened her eyes, looking at my melancholic side profile in surprise. In her memory, I had always been a chattering, endlessly annoying nuisance. She had never seen me with such a solemn expression. So, as if possessed, she reached out her hand, wanting to pat my shoulder and comfort me. Who knew that the next second, I'd snap my head around and glare at her coldly. Xiao Yu, stay away from me. I emphasized my tone. I was still mad. Xiao Yu froze completely. She probably didn't expect me to have the guts to call her by her full name. But seeing my cold demeanor, she actually didn't argue back. To my surprise, the next second, this idiot just leaned back in her seat and closed her eyes to sleep. Right at that moment, I watched with great interest as Bai Haoren tiptoed over and carefully walked up, gently draping a blanket over Xiao Yu. After doing all this, he even shot me a provocative glance. His eyes seemed to say, "See, I'm the only one who can take good care of Boss Xiao." My mouth twitched, and I immediately fired back. Sicko. Bai Haoren was startled, seemingly not expecting me to curse him out on the spot. But right after, I saw a flash of secret delight in his eyes. It was like he had been waiting for me to lash out. Sure enough, the next second, Xiao Yu opened her eyes. When she saw clearly that the person covering her with the blanket was Bai Haoren, I clearly saw a fleeting look of disappointment in her eyes. However, Bai Haoren had already started his performance, looking at Xiao Yu with a face full of grievance. "Boss Xiao, I was just worried you'd catch a cold, but Mr. Lin called me a sicko." I went full throttle. "You damn sissy, can you change your tactics for once? You're not tired of it, but I'm sick of watching it." As soon as I finished speaking, I actually saw the corners of Xiao Yu's mouth uncontrollably curve upward. It was a bizarre sense of satisfaction. Then, she yanked the blanket off herself and threw it over me without a second thought. "The AC in the cabin is strong. You're not wearing much. Cover up." At this, Bai Haoren's face instantly turned as green as a pallet. He probably never imagined in his wildest dreams that his fawning gesture would be immediately handed over to me by Xiao Yu. He looked like he was about to shatter into pieces, but I couldn't be bothered with him. I turned and pointed at Xiao Yu. "I don't need you to care if I'm cold or not. If you two want to show off your affection, get the hell away from me. Stop hovering in front of my face." Who knew that Xiao Yu not only wasn't angry, but actually laughed out loud. She thought I was acting crazy because I loved her too much. Looking at her typical masochistic face, I really wanted to throw up. Her thought process was absolutely unbelievable. It gave me the chills. Just then, a clear, calm voice suddenly broke the stalemate. It was Zitang speaking up. Everyone instantly dropped their spectator expressions, not daring to breathe a word. Right after, Aunt Lan's gaze landed on Bai Haoren, her eyes full of scrutiny. Clearly, she already suspected the truth about the ambush at the port. Bai Haoren sensed this murderous intent and broke out in a cold sweat. He could only pretend to sweetly eat the orange He Sheng handed him. In reality, his eyes were full of resentment. He was even viciously plotting in his mind that if Aunt Lan dared to get in his way, he'd replace this mother-in-law too. He was actually viciously plotting in his mind that if Aunt Lan, this ordinary person who only dragged them down, could just lie quietly in a picture frame, that would be great. I couldn't be bothered with this crazy couple. I reached into my spatial storage and pulled out a bunch of iced drinks, generously passing them out to everyone. I just deliberately skipped those two. That girl, Xiao Zi, was happily snacking away, while that narcissist Xiao Yu was still secretly thrilled, thinking I was jealous over her. I practically wanted to roll my eyes. Who the hell cares enough to be jealous of you? I just genuinely think you two are an eyesore. Then, thinking about how little Uncle Ziteng had just helped me out of a tight spot, I had to return the favor. I specifically picked out a high-end tea set and some premium tea leaves, and casually packed up some of my favorite spicy strips, chocolates, and cherries, having the bodyguard deliver them inside. To my surprise, a deep voice came from behind the curtain. "Bring it in." The bodyguard immediately complied. I was instantly stunned. This cold-blooded little uncle wasn't as hard to deal with as the rumors said. Afterward, I retreated to the corner. Secretary Zhang was truly meticulous, pouring water, unscrewing bottle caps, tearing open packages. His service was incredibly thorough. I casually asked him where he got all this experience taking care of people, and if he had a girlfriend. I didn't expect him to look at me faintly and tell me he had been single for 7 years. All these skills were honed while serving me. My mouth twitched. This guy really hit his depths well. I immediately decided to give him some perks. After all, you can't bite the hand that feeds you. Owing someone a favor for using their body, it was only fair to pay it back. At this very moment, behind the privacy curtain, Ziteng was holding a white jade teacup filled with cola. He took a sip, and the sweet, syrupy taste spread through his mouth. He stared at the 2 bags of snacks, a hint of amusement flashing in his deep eyes. This little thing is quite interesting. Ever since that incident, no one had dared to give him anything. He curled his lips and murmured softly, "You're the one who provoked me first. Don't you dare regret it later." Meanwhile, I was eating an ice cream bar. Just as I was happily munching away, a black dot suddenly appeared outside the window. At first, I thought the glass was dirty, but the black dot rapidly expanded like a drop of ink in clear water. In the blink of an eye, it blotted out half the blue sky. I hurriedly put down my snack, pressed my fingertips against the window, and cried out, "Secretary Zhang, look, what is that?" Zhang adjusted his glasses, his tone uncertain. "It looks like a dark cloud. Is the weather changing?" It wasn't a dark cloud at all. That black mass spread incredibly fast, rushing right in front of us in an instant. It was actually a massive, dense flock of giant crows. Who would believe it? We were thousands of meters in the air. How could these birds fly up this high? Their size was absurdly huge, each one with blood-red eyes, reflecting a bizarre, vicious glint in the sunlight. At that moment, Xiao Yu coldly spat out 4 words. "Zombie crow flock." As soon as Xiao Yu's words fell, 2 loud bangs echoed out. The vanguard of the flock slammed violently into the transport plane. The heavy thuds were relentless, like hailstones smashing down, instantly shaking the entire fuselage. Right after, an exceptionally massive crow smashed fiercely into the cockpit windshield. Its sharp beak scraped across the specialized glass, letting out an ear-piercing screech. Those blood-red eyes stared dead into the cabin, filled with primal madness. It sent a chill straight to the bone. Everyone instinctively backed away, gasps and cries echoing one after another. Who knew? Someone tremblingly voiced everyone's shared fear. If this keeps up, what if a crow gets sucked into the engine? The consequences would be unimaginable. There was no shortage of espers in the cabin, but at an altitude of thousands of meters, who would dare rashly open a door or window to unleash their powers outside? One tiny mistake, and it would end in a catastrophic crash with everyone dead. My gaze involuntarily turned to Xiao Yu. She was the female lead. With danger lurking all around outside, she had to have a way to resolve this, right? It wasn't just me. Everyone's eyes were fixed on her. That gaze, a mix of fear and desperate hope, made it seem like she was the only piece of driftwood in this sea of despair. Under everyone's burning stares, Xiao Yu spoke in a deep voice. "I'll try to see if I can use my ability through the barrier." Before she even finished speaking, a flash of blue-purple lightning suddenly tore through the sky. Like a drawn sword, it struck with pinpoint accuracy, hitting an incoming zombie crow head-on. The crow was instantly reduced to charred ash, plummeting straight down. The crowd erupted in brief cheers. Thank God, we're saved. However, I sharply sensed that something was wrong. The power of that lightning bolt wasn't even a third of Xiao Yu's true strength that I had seen before. She must have been worried about damaging the transport plane, which was why she deliberately suppressed her power. But right at that moment, the transport plane had already been completely engulfed by the dense flock of crows. The swarming wings blocked out all the daylight. Xiao Yu didn't dare use her full power at all. After all, the plane was made of metal. One careless move, and the electricity would conduct through it. By then, before the zombie crows were even wiped out, the people inside the cabin would probably be roasted alive by her own ability first. What was even more suffocating was the sheer, terrifying number of zombie crows. They layered themselves over the front windows, using their bodies to completely plaster over every single pane of glass. The outside world we could glimpse just moments ago was now nothing but a writhing mass of pitch black. The ear-piercing sound of crows' beaks scraping against metal constantly reminded us of the desperate situation we were in. Now, Xiao Yu didn't dare use her ability anymore. Bai Haoren once again ditched his girlfriend and stood next to Xiao Yu, asking anxiously, "Boss Xiao, what do we do now?" Everyone was in a panic, but I wasn't scared in the slightest. Both the male and female leads were on the plane, plus Ziteng, that apocalyptic big shot. We were definitely going to be fine. I even had the mood to comfort a terrified Aunt Lan. "Aunt Lan, don't be afraid. Big sis is on the plane. We'll definitely be fine." Realizing Xiao Yu was out of ideas, I added another sentence. "Little uncle is on the plane too. We're even more guaranteed to be fine." As if to prove my thoughts right, a sudden change occurred. The windows, previously completely blocked by the pitch-black flock, suddenly let in a blinding ray of sunlight without warning. The entire cabin felt like it had instantly broken free from a dark cocoon, returning to the embrace of the light. People instinctively squinted their eyes, adjusting to the sudden change. Right after, they witnessed an even more shocking scene. Those zombie crows that had been frantically smashing and tearing at the fuselage seemed to be violently shoved away by an invisible barrier all at the exact same moment. They uniformly retreated to about 2 meters away from the plane in midair, hovering there in a dense, dark mass, forming a bizarre, moving wall. But an even more stunning sight followed. The flock suspended in the air, as if controlled by some irresistible force, suddenly, without any warning, began launching fatal attacks on their own kind right next to them. Sharp claws tore through feathers, and pointed beaks pierced through eyes. Thick blood instantly splattered everywhere, hitting the windows with a crackling sound like a cursed rain, dyeing everyone's vision red. This brutal infighting didn't end there. The crows that survived the first round of slaughter barely had a moment to catch their breath, before lunging with red eyes at the companions beside them, who had also just won their fights, beginning a new, even more tragic round of mutual slaughter. Someone is controlling these zombie crows, making them kill each other. Having had life and death encounters with psychic-type zombies before, Xiao Yu immediately grasped the key to the situation and spoke in a deep voice. Almost the instant her words fell, the eyes of everyone in the cabin uniformly shot toward the back of the plane, toward that dark privacy curtain. The only person on this entire transport plane capable of doing this could only be him, the one who had personally admitted to possessing a control-type ability, Ziteng. In just about 10 short minutes, the brutal mutual slaughter outside the window neared its end. The once dense flock was reduced to a mere dozen or so crows. With tattered wings, they circled mournfully among the corpses, yet the red glint in their eyes hadn't faded. But before these remnants could even catch their breath, an imperceptible ripple suddenly swept through the air. It was as if an invisible blade had quietly brushed past. In the exact same instant, every surviving crow was cleanly decapitated. Before they could even let out a cry, they turned into mangled limbs and broken feathers, plummeting down. But it wasn't over yet. From the falling crow corpses, specks of faint light suddenly floated up. It was the zombie crow's crystal cores. Hundreds of thin metal blades precisely sliced open their skulls, cleanly extracting these energy cores. What was even more astonishing was that all the crystal cores were actually held up by an invisible force, like stars surrounding the moon, hovering around the flying transport plane, maintaining the exact same speed as the aircraft. They formed a flowing ring of energy cores. Right after, a stream of clear water materialized out of thin air, slithering like a water snake across the fuselage and windows, instantly washing away the blood and brains left behind from the fierce battle, scrubbing everything completely clean. In just the blink of an eye, all the windows were restored to a crystal clear state, as if nothing had ever happened. I looked out the window, at the neatly arranged crystal cores and the spotless glass, and my mind could almost sketch out the image of the person behind the curtain. Using his ability, Zitang was definitely still wearing that unshakable, indifferent expression, as if everything he had just done was nothing more than casually brushing dust off his clothes. I couldn't help but secretly praise him in my heart. So damn badass. Truly worthy of being an apocalyptic big shot. The original book only mentioned that everyone returned safely to the Jin family base, completely omitting the danger in between. Come to think of it, it was probably because there was no highlight moment for the male and female leads here. The author favored the main character, and didn't want Ziteng, a supporting character, to steal their thunder. Now that the dust had settled, the cabin returned to silence, leaving only the steady hum of the engines. Just then, Xiao Yue took a deep breath and walked steadily toward the dark privacy curtain. She stopped, lowered her hands slightly, and spoke with the utmost respect. "Little uncle, thank you for stepping in just now." Unexpectedly, there was a moment of silence behind the curtain. Then came Ziteng's indifferent voice, devoid of any discernible emotion. "Xiao Yu, I'm a bit disappointed in you." The words were spoken very softly, but they made Xiao Yue's back stiffen. Her face instantly burned with a stinging pain. A hot rush of shame and indignation surged in her heart, making her want to sink into the floor. Then, Ziteng's voice sounded again, carrying a trace of imperceptible depth. "I hope you grow up quickly. The family will ultimately be handed over to you." Xiao Yu bit her lower lip, forced to swallow all her excuses back down. She replied in a low, silent voice, "Yes, I will work hard." Then, she silently returned to her seat with heavy steps. At this very moment, my heart is already churning like a stormy sea. I finally caught a glimpse of Ziteng's so-called control-type ability, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. How is this ordinary control? This is clearly a mastery bordering on the laws of nature. Not only can she mentally manipulate mutated creatures, forcing a fierce flock of crows to slaughter each other, does that mean even higher-tier mutated zombies, or even other awakened, fall within her range of control? What's even more terrifying is her precise manipulation of physical objects. Formless wind can be condensed into sharp blades, and ordinary metal scraps move like extensions of her own body. She can extract energy cores with pinpoint accuracy, and even draw water out of thin air to wash away the filth. If that's the case, then sand, rocks, metal, practically any physical matter, could become her murder weapon. Holy crap. My heart is pounding out of my chest. I've copied quite a few abilities before, but I've never felt such an intense, burning desire for a power like this. This control-type ability is practically an all-encompassing, omnipotent cheat code. It's the ultimate foundation that stands above all other abilities. It's honestly even more envy-inducing than my own copy ability. I clench my fists tightly, a fierce urge surging through my veins. I have to copy this ability. At all costs, I take a deep breath, forcing down the frantic excitement in my chest. I close my eyes, pretending to rest, but actually focusing all my mental energy at the center of my brow. Then, very carefully, I split off a thread of mental energy as thin as gossamer. Like a tiny antenna, it silently probes toward the privacy curtain. I don't dare be too reckless. I can only use the most subtle, cautious approach, slowly extending it in Zitang's direction. For this short distance of just 5 meters, I actually grinded away for a full 10 minutes. After all, the absolute power she just displayed makes me feel like I'm walking on thin ice with every step. Finally, that single thread of my mental energy gently brushes against a warm, yet overwhelmingly powerful energy source. It's exactly Zitang's ability core. The whole process went unbelievably smoothly. The core radiates a brilliant, iridescent golden glow, as if bathed in a dreamlike filter. It swirls with a tranquil yet boundless energy. Although my core also has some color, it looks completely dull and lifeless in comparison. What surprises me the most is that there are absolutely no barriers around Zitang's core. It's completely unguarded. Who said she was deeply scheming and unapproachable? She's clearly just a kind and generous senior. However, while the dream is beautiful, the reality is harsh. Zitang is already at the peak of level 3, while my copy ability is only at level 2. This massive gap in levels means my body simply cannot handle such an overwhelmingly powerful force. I can't help but feel a bit disappointed as I casually withdraw my mental energy, but I quickly cheer myself up. Since her ability core is so easy to access, once I level up to level 3, copying her will be an absolute breeze. I really am a genius. As my mind relaxes, the exhaustion of staying awake for 2 straight nights instantly hits me. I actually fall right into a deep sleep, but I will never know that. Right behind that privacy curtain, a helpless smirk is tugging at the corner of Zitang's lips. This little guy is so foolish, it's almost cute. To actually dare to so blatantly probe a high-tier Awaken's core, without even the slightest bit of disguise. If she hadn't completely concealed her aura the entire time, and even diverted her attention to protect my fragile thread of mental energy, I probably would have been severely injured by the backlash the very second I got close. Meanwhile, Haren is staring intently at Xiao Yue not far away, his eyes brimming with unconcealed tenderness. He heard Zitang's words loud and clear just now. The future head of the Z family is actually Xiao Yue. This realization makes his heart race wildly. Xiao Yu isn't just the heir to the Xiao family. He'll also take control of the entire Zai family in the future. He can't help but recall the various rumors about Zitang. Over 30 and always a lone wolf. Some even speculated she wasn't into men at all. Originally, he didn't believe it. But right now, hearing with his own ears that she plans to entrust the Z family to her nephew, he suddenly feels those rumors might actually be true. Precisely because she has no intention of marrying, Miss Z chose to hand over such a massive family business to her blood-related nephew. Thinking of this, Haren's fingertips burn with excitement. Right now, the big boss of the Jin base, Pei Hua, is doing everything possible to win the Z family's support. If Xiao Yu eventually becomes the true ruler of the Jin base, then wouldn't he, standing right by his side, become the most powerful man in this apocalypse? This thought spreads like wildfire, making his cheeks burn hot, but when his gaze lands on me, his eyes instantly fill with jealousy. He sees Jiang Qi carefully covering me with a blanket. Lan Yi even switched seats just to sit next to me, supporting my head with her hand, so I wouldn't bump into anything while sleeping soundly. Even President Xiao's gaze lands on me from time to time. I'm practically surrounded by stars like the moon. He sneers inwardly. One day, I'll make all of you look up to me. Bebe, wake up. We're here. Lan Yi's gentle voice rings in my ear. I rub my sleepy eyes and look out the window. The plane has landed smoothly. Outside, it's actually a heavily guarded military tarmac. The towering walls and watchtowers look especially solemn in the twilight. Seeing me awake, Xiao Zixia takes the initiative to explain, "This is Camp 3 of the Jin base. It's only a 15-minute drive from the Z family villa." I'm a bit surprised, not just by the distance, but more so because Xiao Zixia is actually patiently explaining this to me. It turns out that back in peacetime, this place was already designated as a national emergency shelter. Not only is it well stocked with food and fully fortified, even its power grid is completely independent. Thanks to this foresight, the Jin base only experienced 2 days of chaos when the apocalypse hit. Now under military control, everything has long since gotten back on track. Everything here is quickly getting back on track. Xiao Jixia pauses for a moment, then adds, "And the Z family villa happens to be located right in the dead center of this core zone." I nod thoughtfully. Makes sense. With Old Master Z's sky-high status, placing the family in the safest core area is only natural. Just as we step off the boarding stairs, we see 3 dark green military SUVs already waiting on the tarmac. After settling in, Zitang gets into the lead car alone. The rest of us tacitly split up into the 2 cars behind. However, when the convoy reaches the camp gates, Zitang merely rolls down the window and gives a slight nod to the inspectors. The barrier, a symbol of absolute privilege, instantly rises. This level of clout gives me an immediate, shocking realization of just how powerful the Zai family truly is. As the cars drive out of the military camp, The sight before me makes me gasp in awe. Along the road, armed soldiers stand guard every 100 meters. But the most amazing part is the awakened. I see water type awakened, manipulating streams of water to wash the bloodstains off the streets. Metal type awakened, restore twisted steel rebars with a wave of their hands. Wood type awakened are rapidly repairing houses. In just a few short days, the entire city has actually restored basic order. I can't help but marvel to myself. Truly worthy of being a top-tier base. Everything here is so orderly, it's as if the apocalypse never even happened. No wonder Xiao Yu, right when the apocalypse broke out, didn't hesitate for a second to head straight here. The convoy soon pulls into the Z family villa. The perimeter is heavily guarded, with armed guards everywhere. As the cars come to a halt, a white-haired, yet straight-backed old man quickly walks out to greet us. He's wearing a crisp mouse suit, his gaze as sharp as an eagle's. But the moment Lan Yi sees him, her eyes turn red. She throws herself into his arms like a little girl, crying out loud. The old man's gaze then falls on me, and his stern face instantly softens into something incredibly gentle. "Bebe, aren't you going to say hi to Grandpa?" I quickly step forward and obediently call out, "Grandpa." I never expected this illustrious old Master Z to be so approachable and warm toward me. Grandpa says good 3 times in a row, his eyes full of relief. But the old man has to leave immediately for an emergency meeting, taking Zai Teng and Xiao Yu along with him. As a result, the moment Xiao Yu leaves, Bai Haoren actually hurries right after him. He Sheng follows them too, leaving only Secretary Jiang behind. I look at Secretary Jiang in front of me and tell him straight up to go handle his own business. I don't need anyone to look after me. But Secretary Jiang, looking resigned, explains that President Xiao specifically ordered him to stay. I instantly feel a bit helpless. I'm just going to eat and go to bed. I have absolutely no intention of going out. After all, the Jin base might look calm on the surface right now, but undercurrents are surging beneath. As a vicious male supporting character, who should have been killed off ages ago in the original novel, I don't want to become a target for anyone trying to scheme against the Z family. During this sensitive time, the smartest choice is to keep a low profile and just act like a turtle hiding in its shell. Besides, the Z family villa is heavily guarded inside and out. There are over 100 armed guards alone, not to mention countless awakened hidden in the shadows. Plus, with the supplies hoarded in my spatial dimension, I have enough to last several lifetimes. If possible, I'd honestly just stay cooped up here until the end of time. However, Secretary Jiang looks troubled, saying it's President Xiao's strict order that someone must stay behind. I have no choice, so I just drop a whatever and turn back to my room. But the moment I push open my bedroom door, I freeze completely in my tracks. What greets my eyes is a sleek, cool, dark gray color scheme. The walls are covered in high-tech mecha wallpaper, and even the desk and computer chair have a hardcore mecha aesthetic. This dreamlike scene doesn't make me feel like an edgy teen at all. Instead, it makes my nose sting with emotion, because my real age is actually a year younger than this body. During my freshman military training, I suddenly fainted and was diagnosed with a terminal illness. In my original world, my impoverished family could never have afforded to prepare a room like this for me. This isn't just a bedroom. It's a massive suite with a lounge area and an ensuite bathroom. When I walk into the bathroom and see the bathtub, where even the faucet is carved with sharp, geometric textures, the emotions I've suppressed for so long instantly break like a dam. So this is what it feels like, to be cherished and held in the palm of someone's hand. I stand at the bathroom door, completely dumbfounded. Just the bathroom alone is bigger than my entire bedroom in my past life. The whole room is elegant without being cliché. But what surprises me the most is that there's actually a hidden door concealed in the wall. The moment I push open the secret door, I'm completely blown away by the sight. It's an incredibly spacious walk-in closet. The room is filled with haute couture suits, some still with the tags on. Luxury watches gleam in their display boxes, and the walls are lined with all sorts of classic belts and cufflinks. I gently stroke the fabrics, sighing inwardly. The Z family truly spoiled the original owner with all their heart. Come to think of it, it's strange. I'm clearly the adopted son of the Xiao family. So why have I always lived with the Zai family? It turns out this all started many years ago, back when Lan Yi was pregnant with Xiao Zixia. That scumbag Xiao Bohan actually cheated on her. Even the several assassination attempts Lan Yi faced later were all connected to his mistresses. During the most dangerous incident, if it hadn't been for my biological mother sacrificing her life to shield Lan Yi and her unborn child would have both died. Because of that, Lan Yi brought me into the Z family when I was 2, and I've never left since. To protect her daughter's inheritance rights, Lan Yi would rather occupy the position of Mrs. Xiao and disgust that scumbag than ever let his illegitimate children step foot in the house. And old Master Z, out of guilt, doted on me, a young, motherless child, to the very bone. It was exactly this heaven-defying protection that fostered the original owner's fearless, arrogant personality. Right now, I'm hiding in my room, happily sipping on a cola, while organizing the supplies in my spatial dimension. The stuff I collected before is a total mess, so I finally have time to sort it all out properly. Otherwise, it'll be a pain to find anything later. Looking at that patch of vibrant, fertile black soil in my space, an idea strikes me. I might as well take all the vegetable seeds I scavenged and scatter them in. Whether it's romaine lettuce or baby bok choy, as long as it's green, I'm planting it. I don't even spare the leftover apple cores or cherry pits. I toss them all into the dirt, Just as I'm daydreaming about having an endless supply of fruit, I glance out the window and realize it's already pitch black outside. I hurry down to the dining room, only to find a long dining table completely full. Old Master Z sits at the head of the table, with Z Tang and Lan Yi seated on either side. I awkwardly explain that I overslept. Fortunately, Grandpa doesn't blame me. Instead, he looks at me lovingly and tells me to quickly take a seat. At this moment, Lan Yi waves at me frantically, gesturing for me to take the empty seat between her and Xiao Yu. It's obvious she's trying to play matchmaker for me and Xiao Yu again. But I still hold a grudge against Xiao Yu, don't I? So, with a nimble pivot, I walk right past that seat. The next second, I walk straight over to Z Tang and sit down without a moment's hesitation. The entire dining room instantly falls into a dead silence. Even old Master Z at the head of the table is stunned. You have to understand, the original owner was terrified of Zai Tang growing up. Every time he saw her, he wished he could just bury himself in a hole. But right now, not only did I willingly sit next to Zai Tang, I actually look up at her and ask, "Auntie, were the snacks I gave you to your liking?" The whole family's eyes practically pop out of their heads. This kid actually dares to provoke. This living Yama on his own initiative now, terrified that Zitang's cold demeanor would scare me off. Grandpa quickly speaks up to smooth things over and tells everyone to start eating. But as soon as he finishes speaking, that usually ice cold, Auntie actually gives me a slight nod and utters 3 words, "Not too bad." I immediately seize the opportunity to climb the social ladder, mentioning that I still have plenty stored in my spatial dimension, and that I'll bring her more some other day. At this, Grandpa's hand holding his chopsticks suddenly pauses, his eyes full of astonishment. Across the table, Xiao Yu is desperately winking at me, signaling me to stay away from this ruthless auntie. But I just pretend not to see it. Are you kidding me? Z Tang is a powerhouse with a control-type ability. If I don't take this chance to build a good relationship with her, how am I supposed to secretly copy her ability later? Next, the adults start a heated discussion about the situation at the Jin base. I, however, am perfectly happy being an aloof, lazy young master. Sweeping my gaze around, I suddenly notice Secretary Jiang isn't here. Seeing this, Xiao Jixia next to me immediately leans in and whispers an explanation. Secretary Jiang and the others are currently eating in the 2-story house next door. Seeing my indifferent attitude, he can't help but pout and complain, thinking I was going to act like before, and ask Secretary Jiang about Xiao Yu's whereabouts. I just find it hilarious inwardly. I couldn't care less about Xiao Yu. It's just that since Secretary Jiang is there, Bai Haoren must be there too. Wherever the male and female leads gather, trouble is bound to follow. What a pain. After that, Xiao Jixia pulls me into a whispering session, excitedly sharing all the base gossip he managed to dig up this afternoon. Our 2 heads are practically buried under the table. Just as I'm listening with great interest, suddenly, a perfectly peeled shrimp gently lands in my bowl. Without even looking up, I instinctively blurt out, "Thanks." However, as soon as the words leave my mouth, the entire dining room falls into an eerily sudden silence. I look up in confusion, only to see everyone staring at me with looks of absolute disbelief. Following their gazes, I see Z Tang sitting right beside me, slowly and methodically wiping her long, slender fingers with a wet wipe. I never in a million years expected that the shrimp was actually peeled for me by this notoriously aloof auntie. My mind races, and I immediately curve my eyes into a bright, beaming smile. I pop the shrimp straight into my mouth. Shrimp peeled by auntie tastes especially good. Z Tang gives a faint, her cool gaze sweeping over me and Xiao Jixia. "Eat properly. Stop whispering." At that, Xiao Jixia and I immediately sit up straight, obediently pick up our chopsticks, and don't dare utter another word. But Lan Yi looks full of worry right now, terrified that our chatter might annoy her eccentric, cold-tempered younger sister. Across the table, Xiao Yu's brows are tightly furrowed, his eyes full of helplessness. He clearly thinks I'm ignoring his warnings. Only Grandpa bursts into hearty laughter, the corners of his eyes crinkling with a fond smile. Speaking of which, back when Bebe first came to the Z family, I said we might as well make him my grandson, and just have him take my last name. Seeing how well I'm getting along with Auntie, Grandpa, in a moment of excitement, actually suggests to Z Tang, "Since you haven't settled down anyway, why not let BB be your son?" "Sure." I reply almost instantly, my heart practically blooming with joy. If I really become the son of this apocalyptic big shot, I could walk sideways through the base and no one would dare cross me. Who would dare mess with me then? But who knew that a bone-chilling voice would instantly shatter my fantasy? I couldn't possibly give birth to a son this big. In an instant, the air around us seems to freeze. I could even detect a fleeting trace of murderous intent. Grandpa frowned at the sudden chill in the air, scolding her for releasing such cold energy in the house at night. On the surface, I kept up my obedient and sensible act, but my heart was bleeding profusely. That was Lan Xin's only crowd control ability. My top-tier golden ticket was just ruined like that, but in the eyes of others, it just looked like a motherless child acting spoiled for attention. Everyone laughed. Grandpa's heart ached for me, and he glared at a certain someone again. After dinner, watching Z Tang's retreating figure as she left the table, I once again lamented the unfairness of heaven. That one. 7-meter tall, perfectly curved figure, and those long legs. The oppressive aura she gave off was enough to make anyone's legs go weak. If I could just cling to her as my backer, why the hell would I be afraid of the apocalypse? I was heading back to my room, lost in thought, when who should appear but that jinx, Xiao Yu. She actually followed me. I irritably tried to shoo her away, but looking exhausted, she wanted to come in and talk. She even tried to use the fact that she hadn't slept for days to play the sympathy card. I flat out rejected her. What does the piece of her Shao family have to do with me? To my surprise, she lowered her voice and confessed, saying she believed that I wasn't the one behind the zombie crisis at the port. So what? I looked up at her coldly, but then she completely changed her tune, actually saying that Bai Haoren's spatial ability was too important to the Shao family, and that he absolutely could not be touched. She even had the nerve to shamelessly claim that it was because I always bullied him, that Bai Haoren couldn't help but fight back. This victim-blaming garbage made me sick to my stomach. She actually had the thick skin to say that she would give me an explanation later. Explanation my ass. Seeing that I was about to leave, she grabbed my wrist in a moment of desperation, telling me to be good and stay inside the Z family estate. She said she wouldn't have time to come back and see me lately. I forcefully shook off her hand, my face full of disgust. Stay away from me. I didn't need her to tell me that. I had no intention of stepping out of the Z family's gates anyway. I walked into my room without looking back and slammed the door shut behind me, completely shutting out that nauseating face. Just as I was about to close it tight, I didn't expect Xiao Yue's high heel to get stuck in the door crack. I rolled my eyes. What kind of stunt is she trying to pull now? She took the opportunity to squeeze into my room, leaving the door slightly ajar, and then spoke to me in an earnest tone. Lin Bei, listen to me. Stay away from your aunt. I sneered inwardly. Stay away? I'll do the exact opposite. Not only will I get closer, I'm going to find a way to copy her ability, but on the surface, I feigned confusion. Why? Xiao Yu was instantly at a loss for words. She stammered for a long time before squeezing out, Your aunt isn't as simple as you think. She's ruthless and decisive, without any. She looked into my clear eyes, and the rest of her words about power struggles and iron-fisted methods got completely stuck in her throat. She probably wanted to treat me like a naive, sheltered, little young master. How ridiculous. In the end, she just sighed. Anyway, just keep your distance from her. I couldn't be bothered to waste my breath on her, so I just gave a perfunctory, fine. Right at that moment, the walkie-talkie on Xiao Yue's waist suddenly went off. Jiang Qi's anxious voice came through. President Xiao, time is running out. We need to leave now. Xiao Yu gave me a deep look, as if trying to carve my image into her heart. She told me to stay put and be good, and that Secretary Jiang would stay behind to look after me. Her unspoken words dissipated in the air. Finally, she just pursed her lips, turned around, and strode away. I leaned against the door, suddenly remembering that I still had Xiao Yu's supplies stored in my spatial dimension. After a moment of hesitation, I opened the door. However, the hallway was already empty. Whatever, I'll just return them to her next time we meet. Meanwhile, up on the 4th floor in Zitang's private quarters, she stood quietly in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. The dark glass reflected her indifferent silhouette. She watched Xiao Yue and her group drive away, convoy's taillights gradually fading into the twilight, eventually blending into the base's city lights. A barely noticeable smirk brushed across her lips. Excellent. This little guy's annoyance towards Xiao Yue is already obvious enough. The next day, I slept until I naturally woke up. In the dining room, it was just me and Aunt Lan. Aunt Lan smiled and explained that the base was currently unstable. Grandpa and Aunt were both busy, and they couldn't stay put. So it was just the two of us left at home. She also mentioned that right now, even when going out, one had to be accompanied by 7 or 8 espers, for safety's sake. She could accompany me for a stroll around the base, but we had to bring a few more people along. I quickly shook my head, smiling as I said I didn't want to go out. I just wanted to stay home and keep Aunt Lan company. After all, I didn't want to become one of those unlucky guys in novels who ran into trouble the second they stepped outside. Aunt Lan smiled even brighter hearing that, praising me for being so sensible. As she spoke, she handed me a card. Your grandpa left this before he went out. It's an ID card with 20,000 points on it. Let me know when you run out, and I'll transfer more. I accepted the card without hesitation, thinking to myself that the old man was pretty generous. Aunt Lan then added, once your big sister is done with her work, I'll have her accompany you. I instantly started complaining in my head. Who the hell wants to go shopping and on dates with Xiao Yu? Is this some kind of sick joke? After playing 2 rounds of mahjong with Aunt Lan, I immediately slipped back to my room and entered my spatial dimension. Looking at the tender green shoots that had just broken through the fertile soil, I closed my eyes and channeled my spiritual energy to control the water from the small river in my space, precisely sprinkling it over every single sprout. This kind of delicate manipulation was perfect for a copy-type esper like me. Not only did I not need to go out and fight, but I could also steadily improve my strength, right here in my own little world. As the water accurately irrigated the plants, I could clearly feel the ability core in my mind, growing slightly warm. Even the ability fragments attached to it showed faint signs of growth. Just as I was having the time of my life, the sudden, urgent roar of an Ozhanjin reached my ears. I didn't expect my newly developed ability to be this useful. I could actually hear outside noises clearly even while inside my space. I quickly projected my consciousness toward the front gate. I saw an off-road vehicle slam on its brakes. Zitang stepped out of the car in one stride. She was wearing a black combat suit, her posture graceful, radiating an astonishing explosive power. She was practically a walking magnet of pure charisma. I almost whistled out loud, but the next second, I shivered violently. Even through her sunglasses, her beautiful face seemed covered in a layer of frost. The surrounding air temperature instantly plummeted several degrees. Looks like the big boss's mission today didn't go too smoothly. She probably ran into some troublesome high-level zombies, and her team suffered casualties. But I couldn't be bothered to stress over it. I hadn't even seen her today anyway, so no matter how bad her mood was, she couldn't blame it on me. I simply went back to happily tending to my little sprouts. Half an hour later, a servant suddenly knocked on my door, calling me down for dinner. "I'm not hungry. Don't wait for me," I shouted toward the door. I had plenty of good food in my space. There was no way I was going down to face that god of death. What if I said the wrong thing and pissed her off? Unexpectedly, the servant knocked again a moment later, sounding very troubled. "Eldest young master, Miss Z is asking you to come down. She specifically ordered me to wait at the door and go down with you." Now I really had no way out. I could only sigh, exit my space, and resignedly open the door. But just to be safe, I grabbed a huge bag of snacks from my space and carried it in my hand. After all, farming favorability points is something you can never forget to do. By the time I dawdled my way to the dining room, I found that Zitang had already finished showering. Her slightly damp black hair hung down casually, and she was wearing a loose-fitting, black silk, long-sleeved pajama top. As she raised her hand, the lines of her snow-white collarbones were faintly visible. I couldn't help but take a few extra glances, wildly lamenting the creator's unfairness in my heart. When this woman wears a combat suit, she looks like a tough-as-nails badass, but when she changes into silk pajamas, she gives off a lazy and extremely dangerous elegant scumbag vibe. Zitang's face is practically a sculpted work of art. Out of 10, I give her a 100, but those eyes of hers looked like they were made of ice. No matter how you looked at them, they were terrifying. I silently grumbled to myself. Big bosses not liking to smile is standard issue anyway, so what's there to stress about? Since returning to the city, Aunt Lan's condition had improved a lot. Right now, her eyes were full of smiles as she called out, "Bebe, hurry up and come over. We have your favorite sweet and sour pork with pineapple." I obediently sat down, my eyes lighting up as I stared at the dish. I have to say, my tastes and this body's tastes are a perfect match. Immediately after, I quickly signaled the servant to bring over that massive LV bag. I had stuffed the bag to the brim with potato chips, spicy strips, cola, and even a box of fresh, mouth-watering cherries. It was like I had brought the whole wholesale market with me. Zitang's sharp eyes swept over the pile of colorful snacks, and her movements actually paused for a second. Is this kid trying to coax me like a kindergartner? She then looked up, and our eyes met. My heart skipped a beat. It was a subconscious fear. Aunt Lan watched from the side with a gratified look, probably thinking I finally knew my place and had grown up. However, Zitang's sudden, cold words instantly froze the air. "There's a banquet tonight. Baibe will be my male companion." I pointed at my own nose, my face full of disbelief. Zitang just nodded indifferently. My scalp instantly went numb. I bit my lip and immediately refused. "But I don't want to go out. I'm scared of zombies. A banquet? That sounds like a prime location for a disaster. I'm not getting involved in that mess." To my surprise, Zitang remained expressionless. "There are no zombies in the base," I screamed internally. "Big sis, can't you tell this is just an excuse?" But what made me break down even more was yet to come. Aunt Lan, who usually never let me get close to my aunt, actually beamed with a face full of smiles and gently coaxed me, "Bebe, just go with your aunt. Haven't you always loved lively events?" She actually thought that my aunt personally taking me to the banquet would not only save face, but also show all the factions where we stood. It was the most suitable choice right now. I was going crazy. I love lively events, but I value my life even more. But the moment I met Zitang's indifferent eyes, all my words of resistance got stuck in my throat. In the end, I pathetically squeezed out 2 words. "Okay." Zitang finally nodded in satisfaction. "I'll pick you up at 6 p.m. Watching her leave in the military off-road vehicle, I finally dared to slump by the window and wildly complain at the back of her car. "Zitang is so busy. Why did she have to come home for lunch?" Okay, I admit the food is good, but aren't big bosses supposed to not care about worldly desires like food? I was so cowardly I didn't even dare complain to her face and could only pull these petty little stunts. But I never expected that inside that smoothly driving off-road vehicle, the driver, Xiaoyu, looking through the rearview mirror, would see Zitang in the back seat, with the corners of her mouth slightly curled up. He almost couldn't believe his eyes. Was the boss smiling? Having been by Zitang's side for 3 years, Xiaoyu had seen her cold sneer while wiping her blade, and her arrogant smirk while clearing out zombies, but he had never seen a smile so devoid of mockery, an almost gentle smile. The moment the word gentle popped into his head, Xiaoyu felt like he was going crazy. He actually saw gentleness in the eyes of his boss, who killed without blinking an eye. "Focus on driving." Zitang's icy voice suddenly rang out. Xiaoyu snapped back to reality, a thin layer of cold sweat breaking out on his back. He didn't dare take another look. He had no idea that even after the off-road vehicle was over 200 meters away, the invisible mirror Zitang had formed with her spiritual energy had only just faded away. Although Zitang couldn't hear exactly what I was saying, she could clearly sense that gaze following the car, filled with resentment. This brat didn't dare rebel to her face, and only dared to secretly complain behind her back. Thinking of this, the corners of Zitang's lips unconsciously curled up again into a faint smile. "How cute. In fact, she could have been much more ruthless. She could have used her powerful control-type abilities to silently manipulate my emotions, making me involuntarily get close to her and try to please her. But she quickly dismissed the thought. What she wanted was never a puppet. And at this very moment, I was completely oblivious to all of this. I was lying on the sofa feeling down, scrolling through comics with my left hand, and constantly stuffing snacks into my mouth with my right. I had absolutely no motivation to train. I've always been someone whose emotions come and go quickly, so it didn't take long for my mood to actually improve again. Just then, a rapid knocking on the door instantly shattered the room's tranquility. It was Aunt Lan. She stood outside the door with a face full of smiles. However, what shocked me even more was that there were 8 or 9 people following behind her. The next second, they filed into the room, instantly packing my small living room to the brim. Before I could even react, the 2 leading servants walked up to me carrying heavy black velvet trays. They stopped right in front of me. The jewelry displayed on them, diamonds and various gemstones sparkling together, practically blinded me. Right after, assistants wheeled in 2 mobile clothing racks, densely packed with no less than 10 haute couture suits. Finally, the styling team that came in had an even more astonishing lineup. 3 people were carrying professional styling cases, bigger than my LV handbag. What's with this grand setup? Aunt Lan walked up with a beaming smile and affectionately grabbed my hand. Hurry, baby. Tonight is your first time making an appearance at an important event. We have to get you dressed up properly. She even started complaining. In the past, you only had eyes for Xiaoyu. That girl didn't like attending banquets, so you never accompanied me either. But this time is different. We have to let everyone see just how handsome our Bebe is. Fine. What guy could resist the temptation of looking handsome? Since I had already agreed to be Zitang's male companion, I might as well show up looking my absolute best. I happily stood up. Even if some blind fool tries to provoke me at the banquet, I'll at least be a handsome warrior. But I never expected that this styling session would actually take a full 5 hours. From full-body skincare to nourishing every single strand of hair, I truly experienced what it meant to be extremely refined. Just as I was about to fall asleep in the styling chair, I finally heard the stylist's voice, sounding like heavenly music. Done. I looked up into the mirror and froze instantly. The young man in the mirror looked incredibly dashing. A perfectly tailored black suit flawlessly outlined my broad shoulders and narrow waist. My neat short hair was styled meticulously, accentuating my slender neck and sharp jawline, and the dazzling diamond lapel pin on my collar made me look incredibly aristocratic. My Bebe is so handsome. Aunt Lan stood behind me, her voice slightly choked up, tears shimmering in her eyes. This lapel pin was personally designed by your mother back in the day. Only then did I learn that the stylist had originally prepared a bright and lively casual suit, but the moment they saw me, they decisively discarded those immature styles. In the end, they chose this classic black suit. They said, my figure paired with this face perfectly blended a youth's dashing spirit with a man's handsome charm. Ultimately, they decided to only keep this lapel pin. The perfect amount of minimalism actually highlighted my aura even more, making me look like a sharp blade unsheathed in the dark night. Right at that moment, Zitang returned. I was slowly walking down the stairs. The moment she walked in, this was the exact scene that caught her eye. I saw a flash of amazement in her eyes. Sure enough, the next second, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I tightly hugged the stair railing and complained loudly, "Ugh, Aunt Lan, these leather shoes are too stiff. My feet are about to break." That aloof and elegant aura from just a moment ago vanished instantly. Aunt Lan hurriedly followed me down, stuffing a delicate leather clutch into my hand. "But these shoes match your suit the best." Aunt Lan was still praising how noble I looked, but I knew her little ulterior motive was to use these shoes to restrain my jumpy personality, so I would appear dignified and proper, worthy of being a child of both the Z and Lin families. Aunt Lan gently coaxed me. "You'll get used to them after wearing them a few times. Just bear with it for tonight's look, okay?" But right at that moment, Zitang's gaze fell on my feet. These hard-soled leather shoes were practically torture devices. Just when I thought I'd have to swallow my complaints and endure it, Zitang actually turned and ordered the stylist, "Go find a pair of casual shoes." Then she looked at Aunt Lan, her tone leaving no room for argument. "He is already noble enough on his own. He doesn't need a pair of ill-fitting shoes to prove it." Hearing this, I could hardly believe my ears. I looked up joyfully. "Auntie, you're such a good person." To my surprise, Zitang remained expressionless, but in her heart, it was as if she was saying, "Little thing, I'm no good person." Seeing my heels, Aunt Lan had no choice but to keep her mouth shut. Immediately after, Aunt Lan started nagging, briefing me on what to watch out for at the banquet. "Your aunt will definitely be very busy tonight. I'll have Secretary Zhang follow you. Secretary Zhang is experienced, so it's good to have him tag along." However, Zitang, who had just changed into her evening gown and come downstairs, happened to hear this and flat out refused. "I'll have CU follow him. No need to trouble Secretary Zhang." At this, Secretary Zhang grew anxious and quickly stepped forward. "Miss Z, this is my duty. President Xiao specifically ordered that whenever the eldest young master goes out, I must accompany him the entire time." As soon as he said that, the air instantly froze. Zitang's gaze darkened slightly, a cold sneer appearing on her lips. "What? Do my words hold no weight anymore?" Secretary Zhang instantly broke out in a cold sweat, finally realizing who he had just talked back to. He hurriedly bowed and apologized. Hearing this, I got upset. I am my own person. I have nothing to do with your President Xiao. Don't make it sound like there's something going on between us. If Aunt Lan wasn't here, I really wanted to say that I have absolutely nothing to do with that blind fool. Aunt Lan thought I was just throwing a tantrum and affectionately tapped my forehead. Secretary Jiang could only leave with a bitter smile. What happened next was even more unexpected. Zai Tang actually extended her hand to me gracefully. Little young master, it's time for us to go. Her gaze seemed to have softened a lot, and the oppressive aura around her had greatly diminished. A thought flashed through my mind, but I remained completely unfazed, calmly and naturally taking her hand. After all, this was the future overlord of the Southwest base. How could I dare have any inappropriate thoughts? Aunt Lan watched Zai Tang and me walk away, and actually sighed softly at our retreating backs. Those two standing together are surprisingly a good match. The old butler, however, coughed lightly. If Xiao Yu were here, she'd probably be furious. Little did they know that Miss Xiao Yu, who always treated me coldly, had pissed me off long ago. Who knew that the old butler was actually thinking that the sweet and sour pork with pineapple I ate for lunch, that fresh pineapple, was actually eagerly sent over by that blind fool? Unfortunately, I was completely oblivious to this, and that blind fool Xiao Yu specifically forbade anyone from telling me. At this moment, Yu was waiting quietly by the car. Seeing Zi Tang appear, he immediately opened the backseat door and hurriedly walked around to the other side to open the door for me. I plopped down into the backseat of the stretched Lincoln. My eyes were immediately drawn to the luxurious interior. I ran my hand across the leather seats, curiously checking out the Starlight headliner and the mini fridge. It was practically a mobile palace. There was champagne chilling in an ice bucket right next to me, and a platter of fresh fruit. These were absolute rarities in the apocalypse. I couldn't help but wonder, driving a car like this to a banquet in the middle of the apocalypse, isn't it a bit too flashy? But I kept those thoughts to myself. I didn't dare ask out loud. Just then, Zi Tang got into the car. She just said, "Entertain yourself," and picked up a stack of documents. I caught a quick glimpse. They were actually top-secret files. I saw the words, "Satellite Experiment Location." I quickly looked away, terrified of being silenced for knowing too much. As the sky grew dark, the stretch, Lincoln drove smoothly down the base's main road. The streetlights flickered on one by one. I pressed my face against the window, watching. Under the lights, scattered figures walked slowly. They looked travel-worn and exhausted, tightly clutching the precious supplies they had scavenged from outside the base. As the car moved forward, I noticed the Jin family base was clearly divided into 5 districts. There were even brand-new street signs nailed to the walls. I swear those weren't there yesterday. East District 30, Mission Hall, Supply Exchange Center. Everything was perfectly organized. The development of the Jin family base far exceeded my expectations. To have this kind of order in the apocalypse was simply astonishing. But then a sudden thought hit me. Even a base this perfect would eventually be overrun by zombies. Suddenly, Zi Tang spoke up and asked, "Why this sudden frown?" I immediately shook my head. "It's nothing. I'm just worried I'll mess up and embarrass the Zi family." To my surprise, Zi Tang let out a soft chuckle. "Your presence at this banquet is already giving them face." She continued, "They'll be the ones falling over themselves to please you. No one would dare find fault with you." 10 minutes later, the car slowly pulled up to a brightly lit villa. As the front door opened, I immediately offered my hand to Zi Tang. I felt a little awkward, but Zai Tang gently placed her hand in my palm. That warm touch and the slight calluses made me suddenly feel like I was caught in an invisible hunting trap. The moment we stepped out, a pleasantly surprised voice interrupted us. Miss Z, a middle-aged woman wearing a custom business suit, hurried over to greet us, her face plastered with a flattered smile. She was the host of the banquet, Yanhua. She clearly hadn't expected Zi Tang to actually show up. I quickly dropped my hand and adjusted my clothes. Zi Tang merely gave a slight nod, her expression indifferent. But no one noticed that. The moment I pulled my hand away, her eyes instantly darkened. She even cursed inwardly, "What a clueless idiot." I immediately stepped aside to give them room to talk. Next to me was the gilded sign for the apocalyptic charity gala. It stated that the banquet's goal was to raise supplies to help survivors. Right then, Yu leaned in and whispered, "This is Miss Yan. Before the apocalypse, she was the CEO of a listed company. She's hosting this banquet to gather celebrities and connect with the base's upper echelon." Before he could finish, Zi Tang, who was walking ahead, suddenly turned around. She reached out and naturally looped her arm through mine, leading me forward. Yu's pupils shrank drastically. His eyes locked onto the hand resting on my arm. A shocking thought exploded in his mind. Was his lady actually catching feelings for this young master? Yu was screaming internally. He had only been gone for one night. What the hell happened? This is bad. The aunt is actually fighting her niece for a man. He didn't even dare imagine the storm that would hit. When old Master Z found out, Yu dreaded that the Z family would be turned upside down. As for Xiao Yu, he wasn't worried at all. His lady would definitely win. Just then, Yanhua tactfully smiled and asked me, "And this handsome gentleman, how should I address you?" She was definitely wondering which male celebrity had managed to cling to Zi Tang's powerful coattails. After all, this powerful woman never associated with any men. Surprisingly, Zi Tang didn't answer for me. Instead, she turned her gaze to me, leaving the introduction to me. "So," I spoke calmly, "Lin Bei, Yanhua instantly understood. She had definitely investigated the Zai family beforehand, and knew I was the one from the Z family. She had probably heard that Xiao Yu hated me, so she likely hadn't taken me seriously at all, not even bothering to send me an invitation. But she never expected that Ziteng would personally bring me to the gala. She immediately put on a fawning smile. "Hello, Mr. Lin." I just gave a slight nod. "Hello, Miss Yan." I could feel my aunt's hand resting firmly on my arm. That unquestionable grip felt like a silent command, stopping me from bowing to anyone. I had been hesitating about whether to bow in greeting, but on second thought, such a loving elder like my aunt wouldn't steer me wrong. The moment that thought crossed my mind, we were swarmed by a crowd. Various factions rushed forward to pay their respects. The wealthy socialites even surrounded me, pouring out endless, free-flowing compliments. At this moment, I finally understood what my aunt meant in the car. They'll be the ones falling over themselves to please you. No one would dare find fault with you. However, I knew better than anyone that all this flattery was only because of the person standing next to me. Without Z Teng, an orphan like me, would be absolutely nothing in their eyes. It wasn't until Z Teng's expression showed impatience that the sycophancy finally stopped. Stepping into the main banquet hall, I was momentarily dazed, thinking I had returned to the peaceful days before the apocalypse. Crystal chandeliers, roasted ribs, French pastries, champagne, juice. There was even ice cream radiating a cool white mist. A melodious violin tune drifted through the air. Well-dressed guests raised their glasses and chatted. If it weren't for the occasional person using a fireball or wind ability, or the words zombies and crystal cores mixed into the conversations, I would have almost forgotten that the apocalypse was right outside the window. This extravagant scene and the cruel reality outside formed a shocking, jarring contrast. The moment we stepped into the hall, the entire room suddenly fell silent. Everyone stopped talking, and countless eyes snapped toward us, curious, probing, but mostly filled with deep fear. This woman had vanished for 3 whole years, yet her intimidating reputation had never faded. Yanhua quickly stepped up to smooth things over. "Miss C, we've prepared an exclusive VIP room on the 2nd floor. It's much quieter up there." Seeing that Ziteng didn't respond, she eagerly added, "For the upcoming auction segment, the view from there is the absolute best." Surprisingly, Ziteng turned her head to look at me. "Do you want to stay here or go to the VIP room?" "The VIP room." I didn't hesitate for a second. I didn't want to stay down here a moment longer. The stares from those young masters and socialites were practically piercing right through me. I knew perfectly well that, the second Ziteng left my side, I'd be torn to shreds by this crowd. I only had vague impressions of these people, and if I got tangled up with them, I'd inevitably blow my cover. Besides, I was much more interested in checking out the auction. Ziteng seemed to see right through my thoughts. She frowned slightly and swept her gaze across the room. Wherever her icy glare landed, Walp's-trying eyes instantly looked away. Only then did she turn back to me, her tone softening. "Just do whatever you want. No one will dare bother you." But I still insisted. "I still want to go to the VIP room." Yanhua immediately had someone bring over fruit platters and juice, and even wanted to serve us personally. But one look from Ziteng forced her back. "You may leave." She didn't dare overstay her welcome, and quickly took her people to stand guard outside the door, strictly ordering that no one disturb us. Inside the room, I remembered Lan Yi's warning, and didn't dare touch a single bite of the food. To my surprise, Ziteng said, "Eat." They wouldn't dare try anything funny. Behind me, Xiaoyu immediately moved to pour me some champagne, but with a single, subtle glance from Ziteng, he decisively switched to juice. I watched her sip champagne while flipping through documents, and couldn't help but ask, "Auntie, don't you need to go out and socialize? Aren't big shots and novels and TV shows always super busy?" Ziteng didn't even look up. No need. I really didn't understand why she even came here. Couldn't she just read documents at home? Xiu was roasting her internally. His lady had never liked socializing. Even if she wanted something from the auction, she could just send someone, and Yanhua would hand it over on a silver platter. Now he understood. This was all to let everyone see her making a public appearance with the young master. They wouldn't even have to wait until tomorrow. The entire base would be buzzing with the news. Miss Z attends gala with male companion, acting intimately. Poor Miss Xiao Yu was still completely in the dark. The room was so quiet that only the hum of the AC could be heard. I didn't dare interrupt her, so I quietly pulled out my phone to read a novel. As I read, I completely lost myself in it. Getting to the good part, I couldn't hold back a snort of laughter. Ziteng suddenly looked up from her files, meeting my beaming smile. She was clearly taken aback. This kid really wasn't afraid of her. Right after, I hit a super sweet, romantic scene. I excitedly tapped the table, popped a pistachio into my mouth, and let out a weird hey giggle. Now Ziteng's curiosity was completely piqued. She actually got up and walked up behind me, her eyes landing on my phone screen. Displayed on the screen was a steamy, skin-to-skin scene, full of ambiguous tension between the male and female leads. So this little brat was reading this kind of stuff. No wonder he was laughing so creepily. Suddenly, sensing a presence behind me, I looked up and crashed straight into Ziteng's deep gaze. In those usually cold eyes, swirled dark emotions I couldn't understand. Oh crap. Reading this kind of novel in front of an elder, and getting caught red-handed. I frantically locked my screen, my cheeks burning hot. Did I disturb you, auntie? But Ziteng returned to her seat, looking completely normal. Not at all. I had just breathed a sigh of relief, thinking she really was a lenient elder. But the very next second, she feigned nonchalance and casually asked, "What do you think about the plot, where the male lead gets together with his ex-girlfriend's aunt? How do you view that?" My heart skipped a beat. I'm dead. Elders care about morals and ethics the most. She must be pissed off after all. I absolutely cannot piss her off right now. I immediately chose my words with extreme caution. It's just a fictional plot in a novel. It's just for entertainment. You can't take it seriously. Zitang tapped her fingertips against the armrest, her gaze growing even darker. She didn't seem satisfied, so I quickly stated my stance. I would absolutely never be like that male lead, lusting after someone I shouldn't. An elder is an elder. There are plenty of women in the world. Why on earth would anyone go after their ex-girlfriend's aunt? I thought my stance was rock solid, with perfectly upright morals. But the moment the words left my mouth, the air in the room suddenly froze. Zitang's beautiful face looked as if it had been covered in a layer of frost. She seemed even more upset now. Just as I was racking my brain for a way to salvage the situation, a sudden commotion broke out outside the door. "Isn't this the VIP room we reserved? Why can't we go in? I'd like to see who dares to cross our Wang family." I wanted to go out and watch the drama, but Zitang stopped me. "Someone will handle it." Sure enough, a scream rang out the very next second, followed by dead silence. Zitang spoke flatly. "Little Lin Bei, you need to learn how to use people." I smiled and nodded, but inside I was thinking, excuse who? I don't have anyone to use. Zitang seemed to read my mind again. She actually said, "Little Lin Bei, you can use any of my people." I was stunned. I looked up, only to see her dead serious expression. I quickly waved my hands in refusal. "Auntie's people all have important jobs. I don't need them." But she didn't listen at all. She bluntly said, "You can use Ziyu." I was just about to refuse again, when Zitang raised her eyes, her tone carrying a hint of threat. "If you don't want him, then let's continue discussing that novel you were reading. The part where he dumps his cheating girlfriend and marries her aloof aunt." I instantly surrendered. I nodded frantically. "Okay, I'll use him." Only then was Zitang satisfied. She nodded and lowered her eyes back to her documents. The next second, Ziyu consciously moved to my side, respectfully refilling my juice. His overly attentive manner made me squirm. This was Zitang's trusted confidant. He was basically the head eunuch next to the Empress, and now he was serving me? I didn't dare show my unease. My intuition told me that Zitang didn't want to see me act cowardly. It felt like she was intentionally grooming me. A sudden thought flashed through my mind. Could it be just like Lan Yi said, because I'm the designated fiancé of the Xiao family's heir, and will one day manage the Zai family's internal affairs? She's personally training me. At that thought, my heart inexplicably sank. Even the snacks instantly lost their flavor. I didn't want anything to do with the original novel's leads or marry Xiao Yu. My only wish was to stay as far away from the main cast as possible. Just then, Yu started shelling pistachios for me. He keenly noticed. Zitang's gaze lingered on him for a split second, carrying a barely perceptible hint of approval. Yu breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally bet on the right horse. His lady's attitude toward the young master was definitely not how an elder treats a junior. It was the possessiveness a woman has for the man she desires. No wonder Xiao Yu sent Secretary Zhang to follow the young master, and she didn't allow it, so that's how it is. Finally, the auction began. I couldn't wait to pull back the curtains, ready to broaden my horizons. The first item, a level 1 fire-type zombie crystal core. I took one look and lost interest. That thing was completely useless to me. In the end, the core sold for 330 points. During the bidding, a man in a burgundy velvet suit caught my attention. He was tall and straight, radiating an imposing aura. He raised his paddle 3 times in a row, looking determined to win. Next up was a level 1 water-type core, then a level 2 earth-type core. I couldn't even be bothered to look at these low-tier items. That is, until a potted mutated cherry tomato plant, hanging with red fruit, was wheeled onto the stage. I instantly sat up straight. The auctioneer said it could not only rapidly restore mental energy, but its roots could also purify soil. Oh my god, if I planted this in the black soil of my spatial dimension, wouldn't it go crazy? Starting price, 200 points, and I had 20,000 on my card. Snagging it would be a piece of cake. I was just about to raise my paddle when Xiaoyu beat me to it. He stood up and shouted down to the floor, 300 points. The crisp male voice echoed from VIP Room 1. The entire venue instantly fell silent. Everyone turned to look our way. VIP Room 1. That's her. We'd better not compete. The rising and falling sounds of bidding came to an abrupt halt. My fingertips tightened slightly. I didn't expect my first auction bid to go so smoothly. However, just as the auctioneer's hammer was about to fall, that familiar male voice rang out again. 400 points. The man in the burgundy suit elegantly raised his paddle and even cast an expectant glance up at our second-floor room. I caught the look in his eyes as he stared at our room. It was a mix of anticipation and deep affection. He clearly had an unusual relationship with Zitang. It suddenly dawned on me. His frequent bidding earlier was probably just to get Zitang's attention. I immediately grabbed Shi Yu's hand as he prepared to raise the bid again. The original novel barely mentioned Zitang's love life. I had no idea if this guy was an old flame or a new toy. But since I was trying to cling to her coattails, I absolutely couldn't offend anyone important to her. What if this guy ended up becoming my uncle-in-law? One whisper in her ear and I'd be done for. Besides, I still hadn't gotten my hands on the mind control ability I desperately wanted. Right at that moment, the murmurs from the guests downstairs let me smell the scent of gossip. It turned out this man who dared to challenge Zitang was actually the young master of the Zhu family, who had waited bitterly for Ziteng for years. Zhu Yan. Back then, it was love at first sight for him. He chased her relentlessly for years, and even stayed unmarried after she went abroad, waiting silently for her. At this moment, Zhou Yan was gazing deeply at the curtains of the second floor. Behind them sat the woman he yearned for. Looking at Zhou Yan's affectionate gaze, my mind was already writing a fanfic about the female commander and the devoted young master's tragic romance. I kind of wanted to ship them. Just then, Ziteng's authoritative voice broke the silence. See you. CEU immediately understood and clearly called out. 10,000 points. That number hit like a thunderbolt, instantly shattering all the affection in Zhou Yan's eyes. He looked up at the second floor in disbelief, his fingertips trembling. I looked at the heartbroken Zhou Yan and the completely indifferent Ziteng and couldn't help but mutter, "Auntie, you're so heartless." But Ziteng just looked up. "This mutated cherry tomato plant, don't you want it?" I instantly got annoyed. "Why did you bid so high? You spent 10,000 on something worth 1,000. I only have 20,000 in pocket money, and half of it is gone just like that." To my surprise, Ziteng didn't care at all. "It's a gift from me. You don't have to spend your points." I choked on my own breath and sat down in a huff. "Is this about the points? No need. I have my own money. You just can't reason with these rich people." Next up, when the hostess pulled the velvet cloth off the final auction item, a collective gasp echoed through the hall. Curled up inside the cage was a snow-white baby fox. It alertly perked up its ears, its glass-like eyes timidly scanning the crowd. The auctioneer announced loudly, "A level 2 mutated snow fox cub. Its sense of smell is 100 times stronger than a normal dog's. It can accurately detect zombies below level 3, and even distinguish the energy fluctuations of mutated plants. Starting price, 3,000 points." The crowd instantly erupted into a bidding frenzy. My face was practically glued to the glass. This little guy was way too cute, but I only had 10,000 points left. It wasn't nearly enough to compete. In the blink of an eye, the price skyrocketed to 30,000. I even started calculating if I should leave the base to sell supplies for points. When the price stalled at 70,000, Zhou Yan's clear voice rang out again. 80,000. It seemed this icy handsome guy had recovered and rejoined the battle. However, the very next second, CU's steady voice echoed from our VIP room. 100,000. I nervously clenched my fists. 100,000? That was completely beyond my comprehension. Zhou Yan's face paled, but he still persisted. 110,000? Immediately after, Ziteng's cold voice rang out directly for the first time. 200,000. The entire hall gasped. That price was enough to buy a luxury apartment in the base. Zhu Yan wanted to bid again, but a young woman next to him grabbed his wrist. "Enough, uncle. Don't forget father's instructions." His arms slowly dropped, his eyes filled with defeat and frustration. "Sold. Congratulations to the VIP in room 1. The auctioneer slammed the gavel excitedly. Just when I thought it was over, the grand finale item was finally revealed. In the center of the display stand, a plant flowing with a faint golden luster sat quietly on display. The auctioneer's voice trembled with uncontrollable excitement. A mutated ginseng. If an ordinary person consumes it, there is an extremely high chance of awakening an ability. Instantly, all eyes focused on the two of us. Right at that moment, the bidding paddle in Xiao Yue's hand downstairs dropped to the floor with a clatter. His eyes were deadlocked on us, his knuckles turning white from gripping so hard. Sure enough, I was in his aunt's private room. Bai Haoren carefully touched his sleeve. "Captain." But Xiao Yu fiercely swatted his hand away, his voice terrifyingly cold. "He's right there, with my aunt." Bai Haoren followed his gaze and looked at me, a sudden wave of sour bitterness welling up in his heart. Just a moment ago, he was feeling smug about standing by Xiao Yue's side, but now he realized that this abandoned, foolish young master, could actually make him lose control like this. With a trembling voice, he tried to soothe him. Lin Bei grew up in the Z family. It's perfectly normal for him to attend the banquet with Miss Z. But Xiao Yu only sneered, his gaze still locked tightly on me. My aunt never brings a male companion to any event. A terrifying speculation formed in his mind. His aunt had taken a fancy to me. His bidding right now. Wasn't he competing with his aunt for the same man? Bai Haoren's face turned deathly pale. He softly reminded, "Captain, since Miss Z has already lit the sky lantern, shouldn't we back down?" Xiao Yu abruptly cut him off, a cold smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. In my dictionary, those words don't exist. The next second, he raised his bidding paddle again, and amidst the uproar of the crowd, loudly bid, 3 million points. The entire venue fell dead silent. Bai Haoren looked at Xiao Yu's tense profile, instantly realizing that he was no longer fighting for that ginseng. He was fighting for Lin Bei. Ziteng liked Lin Bei, and Xiao Yu liked Lin Bei too. This realization sent a sharp, subtle sting through his heart. A useless fool who only had his looks. What right did he have? Just as the air in the venue practically froze, Yan Hua actually hurried onto the stage, his forehead covered in sweat. He gave a deep, sudden bow. Smiling apologetically, he announced that while checking the inventory, they discovered there were actually 2 mutated ginseng plants. "Since both of you are interested, why not take one each? Harmony is the most important thing." But as his voice faded, the venue fell into an eerie silence. Everyone was waiting for that woman's response. In this suffocating silence, Ziteng finally spoke. Since this is a charity banquet, I naturally won't stop others from showing their goodwill. As soon as she said this, Yanhua instantly breathed a sigh of relief, but I noticed Xiao Yu frozen in piscine stares. She finally realized that from beginning to end, no one had asked for her opinion. Everyone was waiting for my aunt's approval. This realization was like a basin of cold water poured over her heart. In everyone's eyes, she wasn't even worthy of competing with my aunt. The auction finally came to an end. I practically collapsed back into my seat, picked up the juice on the table, and downed it in one gulp. But when I put the glass down, I saw Yu looking at me with a complicated expression. He coughed lightly. That is the Mrs. Glass. I hurriedly turned to Ziteng. I'm sorry, Auntie. Oh my god. She drank from this glass earlier. Doesn't that mean we just indirectly? The thought made my ears burn hot. I barely dared to look up at Ziteng. I mumbled an apology and quickly turned my back. Who knew the after effects of just half a glass of champagne would hit me so fast? The next second, I blacked out completely. Ziteng looked at me sleeping soundly against the chair, a flash of surprise crossing her eyes. She didn't expect me to actually get drunk. Seeing my low tolerance, her urge to tease me instantly vanished. Her fingertips unconsciously brushed against my flushed cheek. The sensation was softer than she imagined. With just one look, she stopped Yu, who was about to leave, in his tracks. Stay. Her voice was incredibly soft, but her gaze lingered on my peaceful face. Right now, in everyone's eyes, she was still my elder in name. What she wanted was never to take me by force, but for me to walk toward her willingly, for those clear eyes to be filled with affection for her. Her fingertips gently brushed past my warm earlobe. A faint smile touched the corners of Ziteng's lips. This strange feeling stirred her heart more than securing any business deal. Like a new sprout breaking through the soil in spring, carrying an unconscious yearning, I was sleeping soundly when I suddenly heard a knock on the door. In my daze, I seemed to hear Xiao Yu's voice, respectful yet urgent. Auntie, may I come in? The next second, the door opened. I felt a gaze instantly lock onto me. Immediately after, Xiao Yu's voice rang out with a hint of interrogation. What's wrong with him? What's wrong with me? Didn't I just get drunk and fall asleep? I only heard my aunt's calm response. He accidentally drank half a glass of champagne. Who knew? Xiao Yu actually blurted out. How could you let him drink? He's never touched alcohol before. The air instantly froze. I felt it. She actually dared to speak to my aunt in that tone. Then, I felt Xiao Yu trying to pull me away, but Xiao Yu's arm firmly blocked her. There's no need. Ziteng's unquestionable voice rang out. I will bring him back to the Z family myself. Two gazes clashed in the air. Caught in the middle, I felt the tension was about to explode. Suddenly, Xiao Yu spoke in a deep voice. Lin Bei is my fiancé. From now on, there's no need for the Z family to trouble themselves. Fiancé? My brain buzzed. She actually said that right in front of my aunt, but my aunt just let out a cold sneer. Fiancé? I don't recall ever witnessing your engagement ceremony. Xiao Yu refused to back down. Once the apocalypse stabilizes, I will definitely deliver the invitation to your hands, Auntie. However, my aunt's single, weightless sentence instantly shattered her defenses. Are you sure the current Lin Bei is still willing to marry you? Xiao Yu was instantly left speechless. She actually brought up how I used to pester her, but my aunt just added lightly, you said it yourself. That was in the past. That completely silenced her. Seeing she couldn't win the argument, Xiao Yu actually tried to use her status to pressure her. Even if he's not my fiancé, he is still the Xiao family's adopted son. It is perfectly justified for me to take him back to the Xiao family. Who knew? My aunt's next words would be a massive bombshell. When did the Xiao family ever process an adoption? If I remember correctly, his household registry is still with the Lin family to this day. That wasn't all. My aunt slowly raised her eyes, delivering a fatal blow. If I ask old Master Xiao to change his mind and adopt him as his son, making him your uncle, do you think the old master would refuse? Even though I was asleep, I felt like I just heard something incredible. Make me Xiao Yu as uncle. Xiao Yu's face turned deathly pale, completely at a loss for words. The next second, I felt myself being pulled into my aunt's arms, my face pressed against her chest without any warning. The posture was incredibly intimate. Xiao Yu's eyes practically split open in rage. She lunged forward fiercely, but didn't even touch a corner of my aunt's clothes. I only felt my body sway, followed by a muffled thud. My aunt simply dodged, and Xiao Yu crashed heavily into the wall. Right at that moment, I groggily opened my eyes a crack, only to see blinding lightning gathering in Xiao Yu's palm. Arcs of electricity crackled loudly. I watched as the lightning in her hand was about to strike us. In the nick of time, a solid wall of earth suddenly rose from the ground. Amidst the flying debris, the earth wall didn't budge an inch. It was actually my aunt's driver, Yu, making a move. Xiao Yu's pupils shrank slightly. The lightning around her surged intensely, as even more violent energy gathered in her palm. But just as Yu prepared to counterattack again, my aunt raised her hand to stop him. Stand down. I felt a warm protective shield envelop me. The next second, that violent lightning actually extinguished tamely at my aunt's fingertips. Immediately after, I faintly heard my aunt's icy voice. If the two of you truly loved each other, I would never cross the line. But now. She paused, her voice incredibly firm. I have the right to pursue him. Who knew Xiao Yu would actually turn the tables, her eyes surging with resentment. Auntie, do you think once he finds out about that incident, he'll still be this close to you? That incident? What incident? I tried desperately to listen closely, but my aunt merely curled her lips, her tone carrying a hint of anticipation. Go ahead and tell him. I'm looking forward to it too. I completely passed out. I only felt the car driving smoothly. In my sleep, I unconsciously rolled over. I actually rested my head on my aunt's lap. When I woke up again, I was already in my own room. The nightlight by the bed was on, and the clock pointed to 11 p.m. Aunt Lam was guarding by the bed. Seeing me wake up, she complained affectionately. It's your first time attending a banquet. Your aunt should have kept a closer eye on you. I quickly defended her. Don't blame Auntie. It was my own fault for accidentally drinking the champagne. Aunt Lan smiled in relief. She added that with my aunt protecting me, I could just peacefully wait to marry Xiao Yue into the family so I can finally hold a grandchild. I was stunned. Me? Marry Xiao Yu. Just then, there was a soft knock on the door. Several male servants holding items filed into the room. The one leading them spoke respectfully. The miss figured the eldest young master should be awake by now, so she specifically ordered us to bring these over. First, they presented a pot of vibrant mutated tomatoes. Among the emerald green branches and leaves hung a full 26 plump fruits. I instinctively probed it with my ability. The plant's root system was perfectly intact. It was practically a treasure tailor-made for my spatial dimension. Right after that, a mutated ginseng plant, a full half-meter long, was brought up. Once its roots were spread out, it was actually over a meter long. Even the experienced Aunt Lan couldn't help but marvel. I've never seen a ginseng with such perfect quality. Before I could even react, the servants carried in an exquisite cage. Inside was actually that level 2 mutated. No fox from the auction. Aunt Lan exclaimed, what a cute little guy. Was this delivered to the wrong place? But the servant explained, this is a welcome gift the miss specially prepared for you. I bloomed with joy on the spot. I immediately pulled a chicken leg out of my space and handed it over. But on second thought, this was bought for 200,000 points. It's way too precious. Who knew? Aunt Lan would just wave it off nonchalantly. Just accept it. This amount of points is nothing to her. Nothing. That's 200,000 points. Aunt Lan then lowered her voice and told me a shocking secret. When your aunt returned to the country, she raided several major granaries in the Eagle Nation. Right now, half of the food reserves in the Jing City base were brought back by her. My jaw literally dropped. Aunt Lan added that it wasn't just food. She also collected a massive amount of weapons and medicine. She told me to spend her money whenever I had the chance and just thoroughly embrace being a kept man. Wait. I suddenly realized a problem. How did she bring back so many things? Does my aunt have spatial ability users under her command? But Aunt Lan shook her head. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. Could it be? Could it be that my aunt herself is a spatial user? This thought sent a chill down my spine. Her strength is probably far beyond my imagination. I originally wanted to copy her ability, but looking at it now, I should thank my lucky stars if I don't get crushed to death by this big shot. However, looking at the well-behaved snow fox in the cage, a trace of satisfaction welled up in my heart. It seems my aunt is still quite satisfied with me. In that case, I need to prepare snacks even better in the future. You can't bite the hand that feeds you. Once she eats my snacks, she won't be able to kill me. I played with the snow fox for a while, completely satisfied. After taking a shower, I was just getting ready for bed, when a frantic knocking suddenly rang out. Lin Bei, open the door. I have something to tell you. It was actually Xiao Yu's voice. It's 2 a.m. What is she going crazy about? What I didn't know was that after leaving the banquet, she headed straight for my house. Who knew that on the way, she'd run into a base leader's convoy and then encounter a survivor riot? By the time she finally arrived, the front gate's electronic lock had mysteriously malfunctioned. She was certain that my aunt was secretly behind all of this just to stop her from telling me that so-called truth. She firmly believed that as long as I knew about that incident, with my timid personality, I would definitely distance myself from my aunt immediately. She was determined to explain everything clearly right now. Xiao Yue thought that I had only fallen out with her because of Bai Haoren. As long as she cleared up the misunderstanding, we could go back to how things were. The days when my heart and eyes were full of her. When I chased after her all day long, she had to win that back. But that annoying knocking outside the door was driving me absolutely crazy. I covered my ears tightly with a pillow and pretended to sleep. This female lead is seriously sick in the head, disturbing people's sweet dreams in the middle of the night. But just then, the door suddenly let out a muffled thud. She actually used her ability to take the whole door off its hinges. I said impatiently, Xiao Yu, are you sick? But she looked relieved. Lin Bei, you're finally willing to talk to me. Then she hurriedly explained, attending the banquet required a male companion. Right now, Bai Haoren is the only one I have available, but there is absolutely nothing between him and me. I completely ignored her. Whatever relationship you have is none of my damn business. Get out right now. Xiao Yu took a step forward. I came to bring you the mutated ginseng. I don't want it. She had no choice but to show her trump card. Lowering her voice, she said, none of that matters. What I'm about to say concerns your aunt's secret. Are you sure you don't want to know? I quickly covered my ears. The more you know, the faster you die. That's an ironclad rule, but if I want to cling to her thigh, I have to understand her taboos. Otherwise, I won't even know how I died when the day comes. Seeing me lower my hands, a flash of joy crossed Xiao Yu's eyes. She tried to approach again, but I immediately raised my hand to stop her. Don't come any closer. Just stand there and talk. Only then did she stop in her tracks, dropping a massive bombshell. Your aunt didn't retire normally. She was dishonorably discharged by the military. I sat up straight on the spot. Dishonorably discharged? That means she committed a monumental mistake. Xiao Yu continued, enunciating every word. 3 years ago, in order to catch a drug lord, she actually blew up an entire hotel out of greed for military merit. She killed a full 318 innocent people. Impossible. I blurted out. The reaction was so fast it even startled me. Why would I subconsciously defend her? But Xiao Yu spoke with absolute certainty. I'm not lying. All the higher-ups in Jing City know about it. Grandpa had to use a lifetime of military merits just to save her life. To the public, they only claimed it was a gas leak. I shook my head vigorously. There must be some misunderstanding here. My aunt couldn't possibly be that kind of person. Based on what I know about Old Master Z, if my aunt really was a demon, he absolutely wouldn't have saved her. But Xiao Yu sneered. The base's higher-ups all call her a devil behind her back. That was over 300 lives during peacetime. Even my mom told you to stay away from her. Have you forgotten? Are you done talking? If you're done, get lost. I was completely furious. How many years have we known each other? Would I lie to you? She really isn't a good person. I sat up in agitation and pointed at her. Bullshit. Auntie even gave me a mutated snow fox. How could she be a bad person? Xiao Yu was half dead from anger. I bought you so many luxury watches and designer brands. Aren't they worth more than this beast? I sneered. I don't care about them, even if my aunt really is a bad person. As long as she treats me well, in my heart, she's a gold person. Xiao Yu refused to give up, continuing to sow discord. Don't forget, you were most afraid of your aunt when you were little. Whenever she was home, you wouldn't even come downstairs, and she hated it most when you cried. The reason she's treating you like this now is entirely because she suddenly paused, as if realizing something. Because of what? I pressed. Upstairs, Ziteng, who was eavesdropping, was also itching to know. Say it, I'm looking forward to it too. But Xiao Yu deliberately held back. Anyway, you have to believe me. As for Bai Haoran, once I finish sorting out the Xiao family's supplies, I'll hand him over for you to deal with. I asked coldly, can I kill him? She almost choked on her breath. No. His spatial dimension is the largest in Jing City. He's useful to me. Then what are you even saying? I want to sleep. Hurry up and leave. Xiao Yu completely lost face. Lin Bei, there's a limit to your throwing tantrums. Once I'm done with my work, we're getting engaged. You better get ready to be the groom. My roar was her only answer. Get out. Who wants to marry you? Keep dreaming. Meanwhile, in the 4th floor study, Tia Yu looked at his watch for the 3rd time. Xiao Yu has been in his room for a full 10 minutes. Miss, we could have stopped her. Why did you let her go in and spout nonsense? Ziteng stood by the window, her voice calm. There are some things he will find out sooner or later. It wasn't until the sound of crashing and banging came from downstairs that she continued her orders. Go down and take a look. If the eldest young master doesn't want to be disturbed, throw her out of the Z family estate. The next day, I got up early and went to the dining room. I didn't expect everyone in the Z family to be gathered there. Even old Master Z and Z Teng were present. The only one missing was Xiao Yu. I greeted them obediently, then sat straight down next to Z Teng. I said crisply, "Thank you for the mutated snow fox, auntie. I love it." Z Teng raised her eyes to look at me, a flash of surprise in her gaze. She definitely thought I would be afraid, that I would distance myself from her, but I absolutely wouldn't. To be honest, over 300 lives before the apocalypse is indeed more shocking than 300 zombies. But what if I showed fear and she held a grudge against me? Besides, what I said yesterday, as long as she treats me well, she's a good person, wasn't a lie. I've always been one to side with family over reason. Most importantly, my aunt is so beautiful. How could she be a bad person? Even if she really is, she definitely has her hidden struggles. Just then, Ziteng pulled out a base card. You got drunk yesterday and left this with me. I quickly took it. Thank goodness she kept it for me. Otherwise, the points inside would have gone down the drain. But her next sentence made my heart ache. The 10,000 points from the auction have already been deducted from your card. My pocket money was instantly cut in half. Seeing my pained expression, Ziteng chuckled. Look at how pathetic you are. I put 1 million points into your card. Don't embarrass the Z family when you go out. My eyes instantly lit up. Thank you, auntie. I love you the most. Ziteng remained expressionless on the surface, but inwardly, she was thrilled. And I was even more overjoyed. 1 million points. Who would say no to money? I knew it. An elder who can give me 1 million points of pocket money in one breath couldn't possibly be a bad person. She's a living bodhisattva. I immediately decided. From now on, whoever speaks ill of Ziteng in front of me is my mortal enemy. The old master watched Ziteng and me being so close, his eyes full of gratification. He was actually secretly calculating that after Xiao Yue and I got married, we could take care of Ziteng in her old age. He then spoke up. What happened last night? I heard Xiao Yu caused quite a commotion. Just as I was wondering how to answer, Ziteng spoke calmly. Last night, I was in a private room on the 2nd floor and happened to see Xiao Yu with her male secretary on the 1st floor, acting intimately. She deliberately emphasized the words acting intimately. Hearing it was a romantic entanglement between the younger generation, the old master didn't ask any further. He merely instructed Zijilan. You need to manage her better. Why does Xiao Yu always make Bei Bei unhappy? Aunt Lan put down her chopsticks, her face instantly darkening. Is it that male secretary named Bai Howren? Seeing Zitang nod, she immediately turned to me, her tone gentle. Bebe, don't worry. Aunt Lan will absolutely not let Xiao Yu be snatched away by a man with impure intentions. I cried out, good heavens, in my heart. Zitang's trick of diverting the trouble was simply brilliant. I quickly took the opportunity to state my stance. Aunt Lan, actually, I don't like eldest sister anymore. Whoever she wants to be with is her freedom. Aunt Lan initially didn't believe it at all, but meeting my calm and firm gaze, she finally believed me. Her eyes reddened slightly, full of guilt. Bebe, it's your eldest sister who doesn't have this blessing. Unexpectedly, the old master suddenly spoke up. Why be sad? It's not like you only have one daughter. Zijilan's eyes lit up. That's right, there's still Zisha. She grew more excited as she spoke. You two have been close since childhood, and you're similar in age. That child has always protected you the most. Before I could even react, I heard Zitang beside me fiercely close her eyes. I hurriedly shook my head. Aunt Lan, I'm only 19. It's too early to talk about marriage right now. Zijilan still wanted to persuade me, but Zitang spoke coldly. He's right. What's the point of getting married at 19? Only then did Zijilan drop the subject, but in her heart, she was already plotting to arrange blind dates for her eldest daughter. She absolutely couldn't let Bai Howren succeed. Then, she asked me with concern. Then what does Bebe want to do? In a few days, I want to go outside the base and take a look. What? She instantly grew tense. It's too dangerous outside. I don't agree. I pulled open my jacket pocket, revealing the curled-up snow fox. It's okay. I have him with me. It can warn of danger in advance. Zitang's gaze instantly fell on the snow fox. The little guy was comfortably nestled against my chest. For some reason, this sight made him inexplicably displeased. He tapped lightly on the table. His voice carried a chill. I gave you this thing, not for you to take on dangerous adventures. And is this thing even clean? You're just putting it right on you. Before he even finished speaking, he had already reached out and lifted the snow fox by the scruff. It dangled in midair, shivering. I was dumbfounded on the spot. I didn't expect him to see right through my plans at a glance, but I wasn't afraid of him, so I shot right back. I won't go far, and I'll definitely bring enough people with me. Auntie, I just gave him a bath this morning. He smells great. Put him down right now. He's terrified. As soon as I said that, he casually tossed the snow fox back onto my lap. He warned coldly, don't hold it in your arms anymore. It's filthy. Terrified he might actually throw the snow fox out, I nodded hastily. Just as Aunt Lan was about to object again, Zitang suddenly spoke up. I'm leaving the base for a mission in 2 days. If you want to go out, follow me. This proposal instantly put Aunt Lan at ease. After all, with Zitang personally looking after me, she couldn't be more relieved. But just as I was about to refuse, I didn't want to go out with him at all. I didn't expect him to pick up the goblet on the table and slowly sip the soy milk inside. Then, he looked at me with a smile in his eyes. I instantly remembered last night, when I drank champagne from his glass. My face flushed beet red in a flash. I quickly lowered my head. Zitang smirked and went back to eating, no longer teasing me. To help my grandpa and Aunt Lan awaken their abilities, I specifically used mutated ginseng and spirit spring water to brew a soup for them. I nervously carried the 2 bowls of ginseng tea into the living room. I told them it was good for their health. Grandpa and Aunt Lan exchanged a smile, and then drank it all in one gulp. However, as the minutes ticked by, other than their faces turning slightly red, there was absolutely no reaction at all. Afraid I'd be disappointed, Aunt Lan gently comforted me instead. Grandpa also said the future belongs to us young people, but I just smiled and said it was fine. There's still plenty of this ginseng tea. I'll brew more for you tomorrow. Who knew Grandpa's face would fall the moment he heard that? As a grown man, he hated drinking this sweet stuff the most. Just as he was getting anxious, a burst of flames suddenly shot out from his palm. That's awesome. I clapped my hands in excitement. Grandpa awakened the fire ability. Now that he's in charge of the base's military affairs, I can go out with peace of mind. But he actually had the nerve to ask tentatively, does this mean I don't have to drink the ginseng tea tomorrow? I shook my head immediately. I still have to brew it for Aunt Lan tomorrow. You have to keep her company, Grandpa. Seeing this, Aunt Lan smiled and claimed credit from Grandpa. She said it was all thanks to me, so he couldn't be stingy. I didn't expect Grandpa to ponder for a moment and actually offer to give me firearms for self-defense. I definitely didn't want money, but weapons and gear were exactly what I needed right now. I happily accepted right away. Thank you, Grandpa. Meanwhile, Xiao Yu, who had been kicked out of the Zai family, stayed up all night. Not only did he have to deal with the assets outside the city that hadn't been transported back yet, he also had to watch out for his father's illegitimate children who were eyeing his position, and his rivals in the business world. He had to seize every moment to rest in the car. Otherwise, his body wouldn't be able to handle it. Right at that moment, Bai Howren, who was beside him, started putting on an act. With a heartbroken look, he said, Captain, should I go and explain things to Mr. Lin Bei personally? I was really just your male companion for the banquet. Every word he spoke was meant to sow discord. You're the head of the Xiao family, and the future head of the Z family. He's completely disrespecting you. Every expression was carefully calculated, just waiting for Xiao Yu to open his eyes and see how wholeheartedly he was thinking of him. But to his surprise, Xiao Yu suddenly sat up, stared at him, and said coldly, That's a good idea. We'll do exactly as you said. Once we get back from the west side of the city, You're coming with me to the Z family to clear things up with Lin Bei, Xiao Yu continued. No matter how much Lin Bei loses his temper or yells at you, just keep apologizing. Bai Haoren's perfect expression instantly froze. This completely deviated from his expectations. In the past, Xiao Yu hated it the most when Lin Bei got jealous and made a scene. He would always tell him in disgust to just ignore it. But now, he was actually telling him to go apologize. Xiao Yu, however, didn't notice his strange reaction. He just kept talking to himself. It's normal for boys to get jealous. It just proves that he loves me. Bai Haoren lowered his head. Understood, Captain. But the venom surging in his eyes was almost spilling over. When he looked up again, he had returned to his humble and gentle demeanor. Captain, since we don't have enough spatial ability users, why not invite Mr. Lin Bei to come along? As long as Lin Bei left the safety of the Z family, he would have a chance to strike. Who knew Xiao Yu would blurt out, "It's too dangerous outside the base. He's safer at the Zai family." As soon as the words left his mouth, he realized his slip of the tongue. He immediately corrected himself. He's so clumsy. If he comes out, we'll just have to get distracted protecting him.